the maternal father of the Pokémon world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876 reminder. That's it. It's Tomoyo. The last time I saw you, well, it was the last time. Caspacia gestured twice, probably to say how tall he was, but thinking about it, he was not. If I don't remember, I just give up. Tomoyo, my mother often mentioned you to me. Without you, my art appreciation class might have lost a lot of content. Zishu said rationally. In contrast, Sonoko said directly, are you Master Caspacia? Jiro Gilbert asked me to bring you a message. Oh no, I just want to say hello, Caspacia. Also looked at the little girl in surprise. He always felt that she was particularly fluent when she said his name. Oh, you are Sonoko, right? I've only met your brother and sister. Jiro Yoshiya told me that I'm not interested in the art exhibition for the time being. Caspacia nodded. So far, Caspacia has not shown any weird temper, but, until now, Caspacia is still blocking the door and has no intention of letting them in. Perhaps sensing the embarrassment of the situation, Caspacia tentatively explained, there are other guests at home today, so I won't invite you in. I see, then I won't bother you. Tomoyo was also wondering why he was so perfunctory and what kind of guest was so important. Okay. Yuanzi could no longer hide her surprise. Eminem had become serious at this time and asked, Mr. Sparta, can I borrow the toilet? Who? Caspacia was stunned. Amu. Yuanzi pulled him awkwardly, probably thinking Amu was trying to help her with the injustice. This. Okay. Caspacia looked at Eminem strangely and then warned, but my guest is not very good tempered, so you can go around through the side door. Well, of course he didn't expect that what Eminem is thinking about now is, Conan is right next to me and you don't want me to come in. I'm afraid there's no corpse or stolen property in your house. Sorry, I'm rude. Tomoyo didn't know what was going on, so he had no choice but to sneak in with him with a smile. The bathroom is at the side door after entering. Hey, don't go in, it's a guest. Caspacia became a little anxious when Eminem heard that the old man was anxious. He immediately walked faster towards the living room, shouting, is this right here? And what Eminem was thinking was, you'd better just have the stolen goods instead of letting me see the body. Click. Eminem ignored the reminder and suddenly opened the sliding door of the living room, only to see she has long grey hair, a pair of red eyes, and a red and black dress. Nazi. Drinking coffee. JPG. We haven't seen you for 2 months. Don't you know how to be polite anymore? Orphan. Nazi said matter-of-factly. She knew it was Eminem from the moment she heard the sound. No, maybe from the moment Eminem came nearby. Nazi? Amu said in surprise. Kid, what's wrong with you? Caspacia chased after him and asked angrily. It turns out that he is really a bad-tempered guest. Eminem suddenly realized when he saw this. Nazi looked up at Eminem and Caspacia. Caspacia's face suddenly stiffened, and then he restrained his anger and said, ha ha ha, young people just like to joke. Amu. Miss Nazi? Yuanzi and others followed at this time. So, you know each other? Caspacia breathed a sigh of relief. More than just acquaintance. When I first met her, she was only this tall. Eminem completed the joke for Sparta. Nazi, Caspacia, but this joke is a bit cold. And as soon as she opened her mouth, Nazi looked over with a shut up expression. I'm going to the bathroom, Eminem said, continuing his excuse and going to the bathroom at the end of the corridor. By the time Amu came out, Sonoko, Tomoyo and others were already seated. It would be much more convenient since they knew each other. The reason why Nazi is here is to ask Caspacia about the training of Tutu dog. Huh. Nazi, you also tamed the Tutu dog. When Eminem came over, he happened to hear this topic. Also, Yuanzi glanced at Eminem in confusion. Has anyone else subdued 2 dogs recently? Little did he know that what Eminem said yeah was because it was said that Madara Uchiha had a 2 dog, and 2 dog was also a common main Pokémon of the Uchiha clan point. But then Nazi glanced at him again, as if she didn't want him to tell him about Uchiha, and at the same time said, "You have something to do with him. Right? Then I won't bother you anymore. I'll go and see look at your 2 dog." The first half of the sentence was addressed to Sonoko and Tomoyo, and the second half was addressed directly to Kasperskia Point. Although it seemed that Kasperskia was not completely voluntary, he still did not refuse. When passing by Amu, who was about to come in and sit down, Nazi asked, "Are you okay too?" Not really." Eminem understood what Nazi meant, closed the door, and walked with Nazi to the yard point. Seeing this, Kasperskia looked over in confusion. He didn't know what the relationship between this unlikable young man and Nazi was. At the same time, he also discovered Sonoko and Tomoyo were also watching at this time. I don't know what I'm thinking. Have you found out everything about Uncle Liu? Eminem thought that Nazi wanted to tell him about it. Point after all, when he was at Clearcliff, Eminem further passed on clues to Nazi and Sakaki about Stan Industries' suspected use of Project R data. The person who leaked the information was probably Liu. It has nothing to do with you, Nazi said with a dark face. Point after all, Liu is a veteran of the Rockets, so Nazi has been investigating alone. Eminem is a bit too unwilling to treat herself as an outsider. Eminem's face was full of confusion, as if he was saying, "What do you want from me?" Immediately, Eminem suddenly brushed his bangs and said, "Speaking of which, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Well, it seems that Nazi also likes my looks, right?" Eminem thought. Point Nazi. Although Eminem didn't say anything, it seemed like he had said everything. Especially the way she brushed her bangs made Nazi want to fuck him. But after taking a deep breath, Nazi still talked about a serious matter, the Yuansu smuggling case. "If you want to pass by Luxtown in the future, you can pay more attention to it." Are there any clues over there? Amu was stunned when he heard this. He didn't understand why this matter alarmed Nazi. She was never interested in irrelevant things, but Nazi did not give an explanation at this time. But Yunshin Wuluo said, "If you want to solve it as soon as possible, you can read more about the unofficial history of Konoha during the Ninja Village era." Chapter 877 Horror Night. Eminem and Nazi saw these 3 dogs in the backyard. Point I saw their paintbrush-like tails continuously exuding red, yellow, and blue dyes. Point at this time, the 3 dogs were not very energetic. They were just scribbling lazily around, like painters who couldn't find inspiration. Unlike the owner of the Feng Shui Hall whom Eminem met before, Sparta is a real Pokémon painter. He is responsible for cultivating and taking care of Pokémon, and the Pokémon is responsible for painting. Point. But as soon as Nazi came in, the 3 dogs immediately stood up trembling. No wonder Sparta had the same attitude before. It's a living my dog is scared when she comes. These 2 dogs don't seem very happy, really. They are too lazy, so they seem to be in low spirits, Nazi said in a tone of they just lack training. The dye on the tails of the 3 dogs suddenly dripped faster, as if they were breaking out in a cold sweat. Point well, although Nazi came here to ask for advice, no matter how you look at her aura, she is here for inspection. It is said that Mr. Sparta's 2 dog can draw the skills of mythical beasts. Which one is it? Amu asked curiously, while also observing the 3 dogs. Of course, the so-called divine beast skills only refer to the skills learned from the mythical beasts, such as Holy Fire, Dark Hole, etc. Point they are all skills that humans have trained on Pokémon and learned from the mythical beasts. As for the moves of Fire Emperor and the original moves of Nightmare God, humans are not sure what their effects are. Point whether imitating or sketching, it is rare to be able to learn the skills of a mythical beast. 3. Nazi said matter-of-factly. Point just when Eminem thought that all 3 were okay, Nazi said to the 2 dogs dripping red dye and yellow dye, "Holy Fire, I saw 2 dogs. Although they were not happy, they still cooperated and drew an orange flame. The next moment, the flame burst out suddenly, and it was no longer a painting on the wall. Eminem also saw that when the sketching skill was activated, it seemed to be outlining the external gene segment, which had the effect of using skills pointed is not the same as imitation, temporarily imitating this gene segment into the gene segment of other skills, and it can be completed in cooperation. Point from this, Eminem also thought, can humans also use skills in this way? But then Eminem himself shook his head. Sketching is just a skill, and if you want to form this kind of external gene, you can't just draw a picture point afterwards. Kaspersky also invited everyone to stay and had dinner together. Eminem felt that he saw that he and Nazi knew each other, so he was willing to keep more people. Point otherwise, with only Nazi around, he would feel depressed. Eminem also suspected that he was not completely telling the truth. Nazi was indeed here for Tutu Dog, but Sparta and Nazi had other relationships. It's not just about asking and being asked. As for Nazi, I didn't say anything at all. Point, but Eminem has proof. Noah has discovered that Nazi's Spartans are related by blood, but they are not close enough to be grandparents or father and daughter, taking into account Nazi's special family situation. Eminem did not ask questions when Nazi was a child, although it cannot be said to be completely abandoned. She was dumped by her parents for the superpower because of the superpower pavilion. Point later, Nazi, who was bullied in the gym, exploded with superpowers and severely injured the gym owner and students at the time, and then disappeared. Point during this period, Nazi embarked on a journey alone and met her partner Hoodie. For Nazi, there is no doubt that she does not approve of her parents at all. Point otherwise, after meeting Sakaki, she would not regard him as a half-father. As for Nazi's real biological father, to her, he can only be regarded as -1.5 father. By the way, the Pokémon Center in town doesn't provide accommodation at all. How about you stay here? My place is quite big, with 4 or 5 rooms available. Kaspersky said at this time, while secretly observing Nazi. He asked Eminem, huh, okay, no need to bother me then. That's what Eminem originally thought. Point after all, there was no room in the Pokémon Center, and there weren't any decent hotels in the town. Point Sonoko didn't think much, and just stayed there. But Tomoyo was a little puzzled. Why did Mr. Kaspersky ask Eminem to stay overnight? Feel like he's the captain of the team? Not quite like. And it was obvious that Kaspersky had a very bad impression of Eminem at the beginning. Point, but for some reason, Tomoyo felt that besides Nazi, Kaspersky was paying the most attention to Eminem. Point as for Nazi, this wasn't the first time we met Tomoyo, but we hadn't had much communication before. Point from Tomoyo's point of view, although Nazi had some scandals, such as the super powerful devil witch, and was indeed very difficult to get along with, based on her understanding of Kaspersky. If it was just the devil girl, if so, he shouldn't be so cowardly. Point however, Tomoyo naturally had no objection to staying at Kaspersky's house at night. Point at 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, Sakura, who was in the same room as Tomoyo, was not sleeping properly at this time. She threw one foot out of the bed and drooped to the ground. There was a dung sound, and she woke up. Point Sakura rubbed her sleepy eyes, looked at the time, and prepared to go back to sleep, but she felt a little bloated, so she got up and opened the door. Unlike the rooms in the Pokémon Center, her guest room of course did not have a bathroom. In the dark corridor, Sakura walked towards the bathroom at the end point. Because the window at the other end of the corridor was open, a small cool breeze blew in. While Sakura shivered, she suddenly remembered the bizarre dream last night. I couldn't help but shiver even more, and regretted not taking Zyok out too. You've grown up, don't scare yourself. We'll be there soon. Sakura encouraged herself. Point, although I can tear the King of Heaven with my hands. At this time, when facing the unknown, I should be afraid, but I will still be afraid. Point, but at this moment, a red shadow passed by. Sakura noticed it and immediately turned around, but she didn't see anything. Point, but when I turned around and came back, I saw a humanoid monster with a blood red body and a ferocious face suddenly in front of me, and there was no sound before. Sakura's scream broke the tranquility of Spartan House. Eminem was the first to open the door and come out to check, instinctively thinking that it was Conan who had unleashed his power again. But as soon as he opened the door, he only saw a suspected figure in red flying across in front of him and hit the limestone wall at the end hard, turning it into a puddle, while on the opposite side, it remained Sakura in the posture of punch. Back and shake. Chapter 878 Resentment. When Eminem heard the scream, he immediately jumped up from the bed. The moment he opened the door, he saw a red figure flying in front of him. Then beer became a puddle on the wall, and he just punched, and still kept shaking. Sakura in pose. For a moment, Eminem was a little panicked. Couldn't it be that Sakura was too nervous and beat some guy who was pretending to be a ghost to death? Ah. Sakura exclaimed again. She found that her fist was also stained with red. At the same time, Eminem also noticed something was wrong. Sakura's strength is indeed great, and while exerting her strength, she instinctively activates the effect of the power card. This is a sign that Sakura has become more and more mastery of the Kuro card. But even so, this man in red is too broken. Under the moonlight shining through the window, Eminem's vision was better than during the day. He could clearly see that the man in red in front of the wall was a puddle of red mud compared to the man. Huh? Eminem, what is that? What? Sakura asked in shock. Although it has been reduced to a puddle, I'm still afraid. At the same time, people in other rooms woke up and opened the door to check. What's wrong? Ah. Are you okay, Sakura? Faintly. Seeing the scene in the corridor, Tomoyo immediately stepped forward, and Sonoko and Zyalin also came out shivering. Conan had already run over to Sakura and smelled her hand. Sister. Sakura, what's on your hand is, Conan was about to speak, but when he looked up, he saw Tomoyo's gloomy expression in the darkness, looking down at him. Well, Chise is very suspicious of Zio. Although there is no evidence, he just feels that she is not a child. After all, Zio is different from Conan. She usually doesn't pretend much. Therefore, Tomoyo is naturally a little suspicious of Conan and will not treat him like a child. This is. Sakura couldn't help but startled when she saw the red stain on her knuckles, but Conan explained in time. It's not blood. It seems to be some kind of paint. Is Sister Sakura painting under Chise's unkind gaze? Conan braced himself and continued to ask. At the same time, seeing that Tomoyo had stopped caring, Eminem walked to the scene where the man in red was pinned to the wall and found, sure enough, it's not a human being or even a living thing. Now it looks like a pool of thick dark red liquid. At this time, Eminem also dipped his finger in it, smelled it and said, "This smell is." Eminem frowned. It was paint, yes, but it also smelled like dog. The next moment, a red figure suddenly flashed across the window next to him. Upon seeing this, Eminem immediately jumped out of the window and chased after him. Stop, Yuanzi wanted to stop him, but he couldn't do it in time. After chasing him into the yard, Eminem had lost sight of the red figure, but when he looked around, he suddenly saw a white thing squirming on the ground not far away. Eminem frowned and walked forward recklessly. After getting closer, I saw this white thing, which seemed to be the back of some kind of creature with white hair. At this moment, he suddenly turned around, revealing the cute cartoon bunny face on the front. Slim Shady? Eminem clearly recognized that this was not any Pokémon, and it didn't feel like a living thing to him. After the cartoon rabbit looked at Eminem, he jumped up and down to leave. At the same time, Eminem also remembered the dream that Sakura mentioned before. Could it be? Eminem thought of the paints just now and looked towards the backyard. That's where Sparta's two dogs were bred. At this moment, the cartoon rabbit suddenly looked like a frightened rabbit, trying to hide from something. Looking in the direction it was afraid of, I saw a figure in red appearing. Under the moonlight, Eminem could clearly see that the other person's wrinkled face was full of twisted terror, as if he had a face just to scare him. At this time, the old witch in red, carrying a kitchen knife dripping with blood, chased the cartoon rabbit. Upon seeing this, Eminem guessed that this thing must be the same species that was flown by Sakura before, so he stopped it. Kill. The red monster seemed to have no consciousness at all. It just instinctively made a hoarse sound and attacked Eminem. Seeing the other party stabbing Eminem with a knife, But Amu noticed something and didn't hide at all. At the same time, just as Yuanzi and others chased out, they saw the strange man in red rushing over and stabbing Eminem in the chest with a knife. Other screams sounded again. But a moment later, Eminem was seen pushing the red-clothed weirdo away while comforting him. It's okay. It's okay. This thing, its aggression against humans is very limited. However, as Eminem spoke, red was still flowing from his chest. But, Amu, you seem to. Yuanzi was so frightened that she burst into tears. This is not my blood, it's the pigment of it. Eminem said after dipping his chest. Sonoko, the old witch in red continued to attack Amu, but after approaching Amu again, her whole body burned with eternal flame, and then, she also turned into a puddle. Sakura. Tomoyo glanced at Sakura at this moment. Sakura, who was far behind Tomoyo, showed her head and looked at it and said, it seems a bit like it, apparently. Tomoyo also thought of it and confirmed to Sakura that it was very similar to what she dreamed about. Then, this could be. Eminem had already thought at this time, it could be creating card. The skills in Chuanpei are imitation, and sketch. They are all skills that simulate gene segments. Although it stands to reason that creatures cannot be directly simulated, it is a simulated gene segment after all. It is not incomprehensible that one can actually draw living things after awakening. That's. Xiaolin exclaimed at this time. I saw a group of cartoon-like creatures running out from the backyard, and behind, there were groups of red witches with more numbers, like zombies. Some are holding kitchen knives, some are green-faced and fanged, and some are dragging skull-crushing hammers. It's said that it's a creation card, so it's obvious which Pokémon it's attached to now. And it seems that they are full of resentment towards the red witch recently, and after being inspired by creation card, they are creating a lot of works. Yuanzi screamed again, but the scream immediately became weaker. There was no way she could help it. She first noticed out of the corner of her eye, one. In short, it was a figure in red, who didn't know when, had already arrived behind him. So Yuanzi immediately screamed. Even though Eminem said that this thing's aggressiveness was limited, it was still scary. But then she realized that it was Nazi standing behind her, so she immediately stopped talking. At the same time, I saw Nazi looking expressionlessly at the group of red witches in front of me. Chapter 879. Just right. White Town, home of Caspacia. I saw Nazi walking directly to the backyard. The cartoon creatures along the way, as well as the Red Witch army, were all blown away by an invisible force after approaching her. Nazi walked towards the paradise of Tutu Dog step by step. Sakura. Eminem hurriedly called to Sakura and followed him. Although Tutu Dog was probably being controlled, he was afraid that he would suffer. The reason why I called Sakura was naturally because of Chuanpei. Although Eminem can also seal, Sakura should do it as much as possible. After all, these are Sakura cards. Sooner or later, not Eminem's things. When I came to the backyard, where the 3 Tutu dogs were painting, I saw 3 Tutu dogs were surrounding a strange Tutu dog. They were dancing strange dance steps, while scribbling everywhere on the limestone slab on the ground. Picture, Tutu. As for the content of the painting, there are all kinds of strange things. In short, they are all kinds of cute little animals being persecuted by the old witch in red. The resentment towards someone is evident. At the same time, Eminem also noticed that the 3 Tutu dogs were not in the right state at this time. They were not completely awake, but more like they were wandering between sleepwalking and waking up. As for the Tutu dog in the middle, it is not a Pokémon at all, but the creation card in the crow card. I saw that the paintings they drew gradually materialized under the power of Chuanpei and became things that seemed to be real and alive. But just as they continued painting and dancing, an old witch in red, who had been bounced away by Nazi, happened to fall into the circle around them with a click. Suddenly, the Kuro brand Tutu dog in the middle is still dancing strangely, while the movements of the 3 real Tutu dogs have gradually become stagnant. The next moment, more and more old witches in red were seen falling down like rain, and the 3 Tutu dogs also completely became stunned. They seemed to be mostly awake, When Nazi walked up to her, the 322 dogs hid their paintbrush tails behind their backs. "What are you drawing?" Nazi asked coldly. The 322 dogs suddenly broke out in cold sweat. Their cold sweat was the paint on their tails. The three kinds of paint dripped down and mixed together, and the 22 dog incarnated by Kuro card directly dipped the mixed black paint into it, waving its tail to draw a super huge dark one. Red, Old Witch, Eminem and Sakura, who had been burned all the way, happened to see this huge dark red Old Witch appear. Even her hair was restored to grey, only the face has the appearance of a ferocious and twisted Old Witch. This may represent the image of Nazi in 22 Dog's heart. The next moment, a tic-tac-toe pops up above Naz's head. She took out a unique elf ball, which looked like the head of Gyarados. Only then did Eminem know that when she conquered the Gyarados leader, it was special balls were used. It makes sense when you think about it. After all, it is difficult for ordinary Pokeballs to conquer boss Pokémon that have exceeded level 100. Wait. Eminem shouted quickly. Seeing that Nazi was about to release the boss Gyarados, the next step was probably to use Power of Power to beat these four dogs violently, and Eminem stopped him quickly. At the same time, while Nazi paused, Eminem immediately threw a few test tubes in the direction of the giant Old Witch in red. Click click click. The test tube shattered with the sound, and the liquid inside stuck to the giant Old Witch in red. However, if you have good eyesight, you can see that the liquid is disappearing rapidly, and no trace is left almost immediately. At the same time, Nazi also felt that the surrounding water system power condensed and quickly formed rainfall, although it is just rainfall at the energy level of Pokémon, which has the same effect as the rain, skill, and rainfall characteristic. But for cleaning paint, the effect is the same. I saw the messy physical paintings around. They were quickly melted and washed clean under the rain. Because they were made of limestone buildings and floor tiles, no traces were left. They gradually returned to white in the rain. Nazi also saw it. Eminem should be the effect of rainfall potion. Potions with similar effects are not original to Eminem, but they are not standard prescriptions. Everyone has their own formulas. Because they are difficult to refine and expensive to make, they are not very common. But Eminem himself is a pharmacist, so it's not surprising to have this kind of potion. Especially recently, Eminem tried to train the Little Master with this. If successful, the Little Master will be equivalent to having his own rain, sunny, etc. Weather features are optional. Before, Chuanpei could panic, Sakura also rode the sealing wand that had used Xiangpei and rushed forward. Return to your original appearance. Create a card. Sakura hammered it down, and the troublesome 22 dog suddenly turned into a card in the flash of light. And the rain formed by the condensed water power quickly dissipated. This is also the characteristic of the rainfall potion that Amu refined before. It has the advantage of powerful decontamination, but the disadvantage is that the duration is short. When it was first refined, Eminem thought it was of no use other than washing clothes once, but it comes in handy at this time. This kind of just right gives Eminem a vague feeling that his acting progress has improved. Of course, to encounter such a just right situation is a stroke of luck. Only when Eminem truly masters the ability of Poison Professor and makes the random advantages and unstable weaknesses under control can he truly make effective use of his power, and then he can naturally complete his role. As for the three remaining 22 dogs after the Chuanpei disappeared from Sakura's hands, they were hugging each other tremblingly, with only three tails outside, forming a circle, like three Megathema. At the same time, Sparta, who was sleeping deeply and had never woken up because the master bedroom was on the second floor, finally rushed over. "What's wrong? I see paint everywhere. What happened?" Caspacia asked in confusion. After he came over, "It's nothing. They have an idea, right?" Nazi looked at the 322 dogs coldly. The 322 dogs saw this and immediately nodded. "Why don't you draw quickly?" Early the next morning, when Eminem and others left Caspacia's house, everyone had gained a lot. Sakura conquered another Kuro card. Nazi learned about the sketching function of 22 dog, and Caspacia also gained a new painting, Queen in Red. Chapter 818 Arts' reminder. On the morning of February 20th, After a short rest for a day in White Town, Amu and his party were ready to leave White Town and set off again. After that, there were no more Yuan-Zi and Xiaolan among Eminem's colleagues, mainly Conan, so Eminem could breathe a sigh of relief. After visiting Sparta, Sonoko was going to return to Platycadon City and then go directly to Enju City for Yumi. I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Conan is very positive because Conan also has many ideas that need to be verified regarding the smuggling case involving the Junsha department. And Xiaolan's father, Kagoro, was also in Ensu City recently, although he said he didn't care. Kagoro was clearly investigating something in a targeted manner. After all, the case that Era's mother Mako was involved in happened at Ensu Court, and whether it is the case of that year or the current Ensu smuggling case, Hunting Demon Gao, who is closely related to it, used to be the director of the Ensu Inspection Office, but now he has been promoted to the deputy director of the Johto Regional Inspection Office. His son, Hunting Demon Go, he is still a member of Yuansu City Council. As for Natsu's previous reminder to Eminem, Eminem hesitated repeatedly and did not tell Yumi. Firstly, it was to prevent her from alerting her, and secondly, the source of this information is a bit sensitive. After all, Natsu is a high-level cadre of the Rockets. Even if the alliance on the surface, it was cleared up, but the Junsha department still couldn't stand the Rockets. However, Eminem reminded Yumi that she recently found an excuse to transfer Gaoming and dare to help them to Lux Town. Only the carefree Yumi can cooperate with Eminem to do such a nonsensical thing without him having to explain the reason, and Eminem also told Conan, which should also play a greater role. Natsu mentioned two things before. One is there may be clues in Lux Town and the other is there may be clues in the unofficial history of Konoha. Before Natsu left, Amu specifically asked her to discuss it alone, but no comment. Natsu didn't answer. Why did she seem to know something? I see. I understand. Don't worry. Eminem immediately looked like he had understood Naz's inner state. Under her gaze, he patted her shoulder calmly. Natsu always felt that her shock power was becoming increasingly insufficient with Eminem. Because Eminem once saw her weak and helpless side, that is, the little Nana side. So although Natsu usually looked at Eminem differently in her heart, otherwise she would not have reminded him of anything, but her face was always pretending. The purpose of getting up is not to let Eminem associate her with little Nana anymore. But this trick doesn't seem to be of any use to Eminem. This guy's more and more secluded every time, and when she saw Eminem's expression, Natsu had a headache and couldn't help but remind her it has nothing to do with Team Rocket. Without Eminem saying it, Natsu could see what he was thinking. It must be Team Rocket's scapegoat. Natsu doesn't want to be complicit with them, nor does she want to report Sakaki. Yeah, I know. Eminem said with an I understand expression. What? Do you know? Anyway, I found some clues by coincidence. Well, when you find out, you should know why I said this. You can doubt Team Rocket if you want, but it's just a waste of time. Natsu was furious hearing what Natsu said. Eminem was convinced that co-writing really had nothing to do with Team Rocket. Could it be a clue that I happened to learn while investigating Uncle Liu? Natsu didn't say goodbye to anyone else, not even to Kasperskia. She just saw Eminem and left. Kasperskia has long been accustomed to this. Then Amu, Tomoyo, and Sakura first sent Sonoko and the others to the south entrance of White Town. You guys really won't stop by Ensu City anymore? I know there's a good midnight snack there, and Maya is waiting for you to treat her to ramen. Sonoko asked nonchalantly. Before leaving, Yingli has been hanging out in Ensu City a lot recently. No, before the rookie competition, I was quite pressed for time, so I probably just passed by. Eminem said. Starting from Kakayo City, all the way to the west, is the coastal Asakusa City, and northwest of Kakayo City is Enju City. No matter what, from the perspective of being on the road, Eminem will definitely pass through the southern part of the Yuansu area, which includes Lux Town. Although investigating smuggling cases is not Eminem's main job, now Demon Hunter, a little black guy, is obviously targeting him. Demon Hunter is suspected of being the mastermind behind Yingli. The grandson of Demon Hunter is shamelessly using him Grandpa's main force participates in the rookie competition. This makes the affairs of the Demon Hunter family inseparable from Eminem Point. Even if the smuggling case file doesn't go into Demon Hunter's possession, he should at least be able to get Demon Hunter you out of his pocket and send this little black guy to court. But at this time, Eminem did not specifically mention this matter to Yuanzi, only saying that he would not go to Yuanzu City, as for the unknown history of Konoha, Eminem took advantage of the internet to search, and found it to be all kinds and messy, and not as much as he knew, although we know that it is not the same world, and may contain errors. The unofficial history itself is even more unreliable. After all, even the official history is not complete, so you can only imagine how far the unofficial history can go. Sinoko didn't think much about it. She just said that she was waiting for Eminem to arrive in Asakusa City to see if she could meet him. After that, everyone divided into two groups again. Eminem took Zio AI, together with Tomoyo and Sakura, left White Town and set off to the West Point. A few days later, Amu and his party arrived outside Lux Town. Unlike Baytown, Lux Town is still very large, while Baytown is more like a suburb of Platicadon City. Generally speaking, once you get close to the town, you will easily encounter insect catching boy in the Wild Point. But now in Lux Town, the situation is a little different, because the strongman competition will be held in Lux Town in the past 2 days. A group of karate masters will appear, but the probability of encountering some big and round powerful karate trainers greatly increases. At the same time, on the outskirts of Lux Town, a vicious case that is extremely cruel to this world in this era is taking place. Wait a minute. I will admit my crime and turn myself in. I can also report those guys. Don't be like this. Calm down. The loser's clown-like begging for mercy did not waver the murderous intention of the person in front of him at this time. Duanzo, you have done all the bad things. Go to another world and repent. Accompanied by a scream, the blood stained the newly growing buds around. I am Indra, the god of thunder who destroys roots. The murderer was muttering something while disposing of the body, looking a little dazed. Chapter 881 Suitable? As soon as Eminem and his team arrived in Hercules Town, they intuitively felt the atmosphere of the Hercules Cup. There is a very high probability of seeing someone with a big or thick build on the street, or even wearing a karate uniform or wrestling uniform. On the open air tables and wine tables everywhere on the street, you can see strong people engaging in small scale competitions such as arm wrestling. Hey, brother, are you here to participate in the Hercules Cup too? Do you want to try arm wrestling with me first? At this time, a young strong man in a tight-fitting wrestling uniform came up to say hello to Eminem. He also made various bodybuilding postures in front of Tomoyo and Sakura, but in response, Eminem just brushed his bangs, pointed at the other party elegantly and said, "No, hand-to-hand fighting is really unsightly and not suitable for me." Hearing this, many people around him looked over in offense. Butus, a handsome guy. Eminem shook his hair at this moment, and stars almost appeared around his face. Then he raised his head in defiance and said, "After all, I'm so handsome, strong. Men A, B, and D." Obviously I was very unhappy with this guy's attitude, but somehow it felt like I had punched cotton. At this moment, because the elevation angle was too high, I saw Eminem behind me, and the trio of Ganshu, Gaoming, and Yui were reflected upside down in my eyes. So Eminem held his waist, and stood up straight again, turned around and said hello. Isn't this the courage to help the police department? The Gaoming Police Department? Long time no see. If you're not the police department, don't you need to say hello? Yui rolled his eyes one-eyed, lame, and with a scarred face. Gansuk looked very fierce, and even said directly, "Boy, what's going on with you? You seduced Minister Yumi, and sent us here, right?" Eminem also had a high opinion of Yumi. She was originally reminded not to show too much traces, but not only was it discovered that she was deliberately transferred here, it was even revealed that she was instructed by Eminem. Of course, exposure is exposure, and Eminem will not admit it. Huh? What? Aren't you here for vacation? What does it have to do with me? Those who are not strong in their ambitions are not wise, and those who do not believe in their words will not achieve results. Of course we are not here for vacation, but because of the Hercules Cup. Gaoming who seemed to be a gentleman, first sarcastically said integrity to Eminem question, and then answered Eminem's question. After hearing this, Eminem looked at Gansuk in surprise and said, "You can still participate in the Hercules Cup. Isn't this just a pushover for you? During the Hercules Cup, the trainer will also be on the field." The word well suddenly popped up above Gansuk's head. "Huh. Boy, do you want to try a one-on-one battle, Zaro?" "Gan. Of course we are here to maintain order." Seeing this, Yi stepped forward to stop Gansuk and explained, and then asked Eminem, "Eminem, if you know any clues, can you directly tell us?" Seeing that they were talking about business, Gansuk was temporarily stopped. "Little dare, PFFT." Eminem snickered. "Dare to help? Don't stop me. I'm going to challenge him today, Gayo." Meng rubbed his head helplessly. "Huh? Did you find a suspicious person?" At this moment, a question came from the distance. "I saw 3 men dressed in plain clothes walking over. I don't know why, but Eminem felt that the 3 of them were arrogant." After Gansuk saw the 3 of them, he immediately calmed down and said coldly, "It's none of your business." It can be seen that Gansuk has a very bad relationship with the 3 of them. "Really? What's your attitude? It's no wonder that we were still companions under Section Chief Danzo before." The first one, a middle-aged fat man who looked a bit wretched, also had a very bad attitude towards Gansuk at this time. Dissatisfied look. "Okay, Feng." A tall, thin man with glasses next to him stopped his companions from responding to the provocation and asked the 3 Gansuk, "Have you seen Section Chief Danzo?" "Danzo has come to Lux Town too?" Gansuk frowned at this time. "Well, originally Section Chief Danzo had a special mission with us. Take the route." The tall and lanky man with glasses was just halfway through his words when he was stopped by Feng. "Ahem. Forget it. It's nothing. It's just that Director Danzo has always been punctual." Hearing this, the man with glasses didn't reveal much, but it could be seen that Danzo seemed to have not shown up for a long time. "Should we search separately?" the third young man suggested at this time. "It's better to say goodbye. After all, as the saying goes, 2 people don't look at the well, isn't it, Zuo?" Ha ha ha. Feng didn't know if he was just joking about his companion's name or if it was true. The 3 of them were also wary of each other. Seeing the 3 of them leaving, "Well, that's your business, but tell Danzo that I won't return to his department so that he doesn't have to apply to Director Yumi anymore." Gansuk said at this time, very shamelessly, "Haha, that's a pity. Originally, you were very suitable to work under Section Chief Danzo." Ha ha ha. Feng said inexplicably at this time. This time Jejin patted him, as if to remind him not to talk too much. After they left, Gansuk was still angry. "Damn it. It's inexplicable. Only ghosts are suitable for you. Maybe it's because they all seem to have low emotional intelligence and are fierce." Eminem also guessed what the other person meant by appropriate. "What did you say?" Gansuk immediately glared over with one eye. At this time, Yui interrupted. Sorry, I made everyone laugh. This feels right. It's like a wife who is trying to make up for her irritable husband." Eminem said with a surprised look on his face. What? Eminem, you still like to talk nonsense." Yui immediately stuttered. "By the way, who are those 3 people? Are they Junsha?" Eminem asked at this time. "A horse loses weight and a fortune teller becomes poor." Indeed, the Kajin Police Department, the Feng Police Department, and the Sai Police Department are all under the command of Section Chief Danzo. "Very good, Junsha." Gaoming instructed everyone. "Don't judge a book by its appearance." But the words he said sounded perfunctory. Danzo, Tori, Feng, Saoi. Amu was suddenly startled at this moment. I didn't think anything was wrong just now, but after Gaoming mentioned it, Zaro. Gan, what's your last name? Amu quickly turned around and asked, who do you call Zaro? Gansuk instinctively didn't want to talk to him, but Yui, who noticed Eminem's expression at the side, already said, Gansuk's surname is Yamato. What's wrong? It's nothing. Why don't you call me Zaro Gan? Yui, Eminem felt that he vaguely understood why the other party just said that. Chapter 882 Excitement. Eminem vaguely understood the meaning of the other party's words at the same time. There was also hesitation in my heart. Based on Eminem's previous search results on the internet, Danzo and Jen were rarely seen in unofficial histories in the official history. This pseudo-hockage is only mentioned briefly. These juncer actually know this and even make fun of their names, which shows that they know the unofficial history of Konoha very well, and they still have a relatively correct understanding. Of course, I didn't understand it too carefully, otherwise I should have known that Yamato was not that suitable for them, but now is the most suitable. I was in the same class with them, but was transferred out later at this time. Eminem didn't know what this meant, but combined with Natsu's previous reminder, Eminem secretly became concerned about these people. After all, this guy was obviously related to Konoha on Ashi Point, especially when they just said that section chief Danzo seems to be missing. Could it be? Eminem, sure enough you are here too. At this moment, Yuanzi's voice came over. Eminem turned his head and looked over, and also saw Xiaolan and Conan. Seeing the change in Eminem's expression, Yui, who had been staring at him and felt that he seemed to know something, asked sensitively, "What's wrong?" "I think that section chief Danzo is most likely, well," Amu thought to himself, "he is destined to die." "Huh? What's wrong?" Yui still didn't understand. "It's nothing. Why are you here?" Amu greeted Yuanzi and the others after saying something. "It was my father who received the commission for the Hercules Cup." Xiaolan explained to Yuanzi at this time point. As for the fact that Yuanzi encouraged Xiaolan to come along as soon as she heard about Luxtown, Xiaolan certainly wouldn't say much, point seeing that Eminem had no intention of telling the truth. Gansu said with a bang, "Let's go, we still have business to do." Zao. Gan, wait a minute. Yui persuaded Gan ZHU and said to Eminem and others, "I'm sorry, he's been in a bad mood recently, especially here. I'm rude." After saying that, he chased after him. After Eminem met Sonoko and Xiaolan, he chatted about the request Uncle Kagoro received. While heading to the Pokémon Center, it wasn't a serious detective commission, but he was invited to be a guest point. When Kagoro was young, he happened to participate in the Hercules Cup and get a ranking. In addition, he is now a famous detective, so he was invited back. Although it has nothing to do with detective work, it is good to get carriage fees, and it is in the Enzo area. With Conan's encouragement, Kagoro can make the trip point. However, Kagoro was not with them at this time, but went to the organizers. Ayala and saw that Sonoko wanted to go to the Pokémon Center, so she didn't go with her father. As expected, she met Eminem soon after. The group of people first went to the Pokémon Center and checked in. Although Luxtown is not as good as Jupi Town, it is much larger than White Town. It is a relatively large town. After all, it is located in Ensu City, Asakusa City, and Platicadon City. Between cities, there are no big cities nearby. Therefore, the Pokémon Center is also very large, and of course provides accommodation point. After settling in, everyone was going to eat first. It was still early, so naturally they went out to eat. "Is there any good food nearby?" Eminem asked the receptionist at the entrance of the Pokémon Center. Although Eminem was wearing sunglasses, which sealed part of his appearance, the other party still blushed and said, "At the east end of Zendong Sumo Bridge, there is a special and improved sumo hot pot. It tastes good, thank you," Eminem said, brushing his bangs carelessly. Sonoko, Tomoyo, "But I just arrived at the end of the Sumo Bridge." Eminem didn't expect that he would meet Gansuk and others so soon. Just when Eminem and others saw the bridge, they suddenly saw a crowd gathering, and there were faint screams. They also saw a limping guy, who actually jumped off the bridge on one leg in the most urgent manner. "You guys stay here and don't move." Eminem knew that something must have happened, so he ran over. Conan. Xiaolan didn't notice anyone, and Conan followed point. As soon as he arrived at the water's edge, Eminem saw Yui's face turned livid, blocking the crowd of onlookers, the kind that released all the Pokémon, and sealed off the scene immediately. Seeing someone pushing forward, Yui was about to stop him, but was stunned when he saw it was Eminem. Without waiting for her reaction, Eminem said, "Let me help too." "Wait, okay." YUI looked a little hesitant. But Eminem had already released the little master at this time, and then let him reach out and point and draw around, and saw the wall of fire suddenly rise, blocking the onlookers even more violently. Everyone was shocked at first, but they felt relieved when they found that the fire had not spread. What's going on? It's on fire. Come on, who has a water Pokémon? Wait, the fire didn't spread. It must be Junsha's wind speed dog controlling the fire. Don't cause trouble. No, I saw it was a Gallus looking. Of course, it's actually Eminem's eternal flame. I just used the little boss to show off so that Eminem would not be watched. After seeing Junsha's determination to seal off the scene, everyone around them also became less interested in watching. At the same time, Eminem saw the scene inside and finally understood why YUI reacted like this. At this moment, Gansu found a human head in a section of the river where there was blood. This is a bit too exciting for this world in this era. Even Eminem, YUI was a little hesitant, not wanting him to step forward to help, lest he be frightened. Conan. YUI suddenly realized that Conan had actually come up to take a look, and quickly pulled the kid back. At this time, Gaoming also seemed to find something under the bridge. Although it was pitch black, but with this human head as a reference, Eminem could easily guess it should be a headless and charred corpse. It's really cruel. Eminem did not dare to look at it. The last time I was in Sister Ayako's villa, the case of the bandage monster wasn't so exciting. This person. After Yui glanced at it from the corner of his eye, his expression immediately froze. He felt a little familiar, as if he was when they were just passing by the bridge. They saw blood pouring out of the river, so they immediately came down to check, but now they don't know the situation. Do you know him? Upon seeing this, Eminem already had some guesses in his mind. Gansuk, on the other hand, kept staring at the head without wavering at all. Then he nodded and said, yes, it's Danzo. It's a pity that his life is obviously not serious, and there is no value in saving him. The other side is here. Gaoming also said under the bridge at this time, without even dragging Gwen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883 Little Tale. What happened? What happened? Feng, Jejun, and Sei, who had met before, shouted outside the firewall at this time. Seeing this, Eminem glanced at YUI for advice. Let them come in. This is not something that can be hidden, YUI said without any entanglement. After all, in YUI's view, these three were just colleagues who were not close friends with him. It was impossible for him to hide the murder of his boss from them, and there was no reason to do so. Amu said, controlling the firewall to open a gap in front of the three people. The three of them had also released their Pokémon, and when they saw YUI, Gansuk and the others were also there, they walked in with a sigh of relief. What's going on? This is. After taking the route in, he saw the things in Gan's assistant. For Junsha, this was too exciting. Danzo, section chief. How is it possible? Sei was so frightened that his face turned pale. What's going on? Feng became uncontrollably angry under the tension. It's not clear yet. When we were passing by the bridge just now, we suddenly found blood in the river. After that, YUI explained. When did you last see Danzo? Amu asked directly. Why are you asking us? Who are you? He was about to answer instinctively, but he immediately reacted. You are Junsha, and I'm Junsha. You still can't recognize it like this? Okay. I saw Eminem speaking, taking off the sunglasses that sealed 50% of his appearance, turned sideways and put on an affectionate posture and said, then you know this, right? Of course, he didn't put on the sunglasses. Crushing is so luxurious. So who are you? Feng obviously didn't watch Eminem's press conference, let alone Kanto's rookie competition. At this time, he was still inexplicably hostile to the handsome guy. I know. It's Eminem. Sei on the side reacted immediately. Eminem nodded secretly. young people are still paying attention to current affairs. Amu? Which Eminem? Arfeng still didn't respond. That's the one from Minister Yumi. Oh, Slim. Shady. What are you two talking about secretly? What's that expression? At this time, Arfeng looked at Eminem with a complex expression of that's it. No wonder. And he's just more handsome. Without waiting for Amu to speak, Tojin immediately said, it turns out to be Mr. Amu. No wonder he is so talented. Hehe, we originally made an appointment with Section Chief Danzo to come to Lux Town today to capture a treasure that has been hidden for a long time. Camu is part of the smuggling gang, but we have been unable to contact Section Chief Danzo before, so we had to go there ourselves, but they have already escaped. Smuggling gang? Because of the preconception brought about by Nazi's reminder, Eminem is very sensitive to their connection with smuggling. You three have always been together? Eminem asked. Although Arfeng and the other three were impatient, they still nodded. You are handsome, and you are amazing. Okay, he has been dead for at least 3 hours. Gansuk was still holding Danzo's head at this time point in 3 hours, before Eminem saw Gansuk and the others, as well as these 3 people. Danzo was already dead. This is also consistent with the time when he missed the appointment, and may have even turned around early in the morning. But didn't you see blood in the river? Amu wondered when he heard this. That's right, there must be some mechanism, or maybe there is a Pokémon that has been keeping this before and just threw it into the river. There may even be dye. All we see is red. It may not be real blood. Ganshu said calmly. At this time, Gaoming added, I'm sure it's just to attract our attention. Otherwise, we can burn them together. Is that one definitely Danzo's? Amu asked with some suspicion. After all, it was burnt, so maybe it belonged to another person. However, to say that it is suspended death. Eminem endured the discomfort and looked at Danzo's head, but he didn't think it looked like it. If it was a special effect or awakening effect such as stand-in, then not only would Gansuk be bribed, but also the coroner behind him would have to be bribed. Only then can we do it. Although there are not many left, this toe should be able to detect. It's a pity that the elf balls are not there anymore. Gaoming's courage is obviously not small. The elf ball is not here? Could it be that it was attacked by a sneak attack? Arfeng said angrily. Gansuk said at this time, how could Danzo be attacked by surprise? He was the most decisive one. Obviously he didn't believe this statement. Hearing Gansuk speak, Yui looked over and suddenly noticed that there seemed to be something on Danzo's forehead. Is this a perm mark? Yui looked at it suspiciously. It looked like a 3 commas pattern. Right in the middle of the forehead. It looks like someone killed someone first and then neatly permed it on. Amu suddenly felt familiar. Isn't this just the tales of 322 dogs surrounding each other? Well, is it the family emblem from the Ninja Village era? Gansuk looked at Daming Gaoming at this time. It's not a family emblem, but it is true that a ninja family in the Konoha period can also be symbolized in this way. Gaoming really knew Konoha. Yui seemed to suddenly remember something at this time, and then said, by the way, I heard Yoshiro say something like, there is also a root tissue in Junsuli when he was drunk and made a mistake. Later I found out that this name, it seems to be a mysterious organization that exists in the unofficial history of Konoha, but when I asked again later, he refused to answer. Yui suddenly mentioned the name of her short-lived ex-husband, and Gansuk turned away after hearing it, turning both heads at the same time. When Yui saw this, her heart tightened. At this moment, Eminem also remembered the bad things that happened to Yui's ex-husband's family. At that time, those people wanted Patrolman Zuenrin to behave abnormally at the Dragon Knight conference. So they tampered with him where he practiced. If they think this way, if they are bolder, or if Zuenren is not affected that time, the next step may be to drug him. When it comes to drugging, contraband items such as ultimate alien beast materials are naturally the most effective, and unlike potions, they are not easily subject to subsequent investigation. Yi Lang, one of the participants, mentioned the Root organization. Which means, Eminem feels like he has really caught the tail of the smuggling case this time. It's just that it wasn't investigated by our own side. but that there was an unknown murderer who brought justice from heaven to the other party's little boss, and that's how we happened to catch some tails. Whether Danzo or the root organization, a mere section chief is definitely not the mastermind, but just a tool. Point after realizing this, Eminem immediately took out the illustrated book and contacted Yumi, not giving the real mastermind a chance to destroy the evidence. Chapter 884 Hidden Secrets. Not long after, the local juncture from Leixi town also arrived. Although the quality of the local juncture department was not as good as Gaoming and others, they had enough manpower. Eminem also handed over the control of the scene, but he did not leave, relying on his special status. After Eminem received many exclamations, no one dared to chase him away. While avoiding Ah Feng and the other three, Amu specifically asked Yui, "What class is Danzo the head of? What happened to the criminal department's search section 3? Yui asked curiously. "It's the third search section in charge of smuggling cases?" Although Eminem did not answer, he asked in a pointed direction. Yui instantly understood what Eminem was suspecting. After all, the reason why the three of them were transferred from the Yanmo area to the Yuansu area was because of the smuggling case, and they were just stuck in the police department. Otherwise, normally speaking, the three of them should really be under Danzo. They are responsible for theft and smuggling. You want to say, Eminem didn't answer Yui anymore. After all, Eminem didn't know much about it, and I believe she knew what she was suspecting when she heard that he specifically emphasized smuggling. What kind of personal grudge does Gansu have with them? Isn't it just a bad relationship? Amu asked back at this time. Yui looked at Gansuk and saw that he was not looking here. He hesitated and explained. Actually, when Gansuk just graduated from Junsha school, he was assigned to the Yuansu area. It was still the police department at that time. Danzo's subordinates, and then, while handling a smuggling case, an accident occurred. The partner who dared to help, Windspeed Dog, was affected by the pheromones of Up-02, beautiful, and fell into a manic state. Because it was in a downtown area, passers-by were injured, so Search Danzo ordered his subordinate Shitori to kill him. After Yui paused, because he didn't want Eminem to misunderstand anything. He said specifically, of course, Ziogan was very depressed during that time, but he actually understood Section Chief Danzo's decision. After all, the pheromones in Up-02, beauty, that Windspeed Dog inhaled were excessive. Not only was he unable to control it, but he also attacked the people and Pokémon around him indiscriminately. He even caused the death of a passerby's Pokémon. Ziogan also suffered. He was injured, and because the pheromones of Up-02, beautiful, put it in an extremely excited state and could not cause others to faint. Section Chief Danzo could only do this. Eminem understood what he said. He understood, but Gansuk definitely didn't want to see Danzo again. It's in Yuansu City, right? Amu confirmed. Hearing this, Yui's expression was obviously stagnant, but then he still said, "No, it's just in Hercules Town." It seems that it's also during the time when the Hercules Cup is being held. Slim shady. What a coincidence, isn't it? If Eminem hadn't known that Danzangti was a red party, he would have been suspected now. No wonder Gansuk just retorted that Danzo could not be attacked by a sneak attack, because in Gansuk's eyes, Danzo is the kind of person who will take decisive action first when he senses danger. There is no chance of a sneak attack. Seeing that the scene was completely blocked, Junsha from the local forensics department began to take samples, and Eminem stayed here like a supervisor. Amu, are you not hungry anymore? Yuanzi couldn't help but ask. And, Conan, why are you still running around? Don't make trouble for brother Junsha and sister Junsha. Xiaolan also pulled Conan over. Honestly, I don't have much of an appetite. You go ahead and wait. I'll be there in a while. Eminem said honestly. The U-turn just now did have a great impact on Eminem's appetite. After all, it was the first time he saw such a bloody scene. Sister Xiaolan, it's just so scary. If you don't know the outcome, I'll have nightmares. Conan started acting cute at this time. How scary? Xiaolan was stunned when she heard this. She didn't know how impactful the scene just now was. Conan, please follow me first. I will ask you to take care of Zio AI. Eminem said, taking off the lightning bird ball necklace from his neck and handing it to Zioai for Safa keeping point. What if the smugglers here are related to dark organizations? That's okay. Seeing this, Ziolan had no choice but to agree first. Why is Conan still here? Yui frowned when she saw that not only did Eminem not leave, but Conan didn't leave either. After all, this case is a bit too exciting for children. But this time, what is that? Conan suddenly made an exaggerated sound of surprise. I saw it at the bottom of the railing in the middle of the pedestrian bridge. If you look carefully, you can see a group of grey things that are the same as the railing. If you didn't go looking for it, you really wouldn't have found it. After Conan pointed it out, on-site forensic personnel immediately rushed over to take samples and analyze. How's it going? Eminem didn't know. When he came behind the forensics officer, the latter hesitated for a moment, then spoke honestly. I guess it's the paint from Tutu Dog. Well, these Junshas are still very cooperative with Eminem. Otherwise, it would be really hard for Eminem to expose the secret order Adi gave him. Although the Yuansu smuggling case is also very important, it was used to investigate Hydra, and it would be overkill if exposed here. But maybe it's because Eminem is good looking, although some Junshas are a little resistant to the name Eminem. After all, there are previous revelation threats. But in general, they are still very cooperative with Eminem. Sure enough, Eminem muttered at this time with Naz's previous hints and the experience of seeing 3 Tutu dogs in Sparta. Eminem immediately made a guess in this way. It is very likely that Danzo's head was originally placed in the bag, and the bag was tied to the bridge with a rope, drawn by Tutu Dog in the same color as the bridge fence, and the bag was there should be red paint, and even the bag itself may be painted with the same color paint as the bridge to ensure that it will not be discovered in advance. The shaping of this kind of paint already has the meaning of skill awakening, but it is just turning into a rope, which is not too difficult. It is incomparable with what was done in creating brand before. In this way, there is no need for the Tutu Dog to be at the scene. When you want to activate the mechanism, let the Tutu Dog release the paint from the setting, and the bag will fall down, and at the same time, a lot of red will be dyed in the river water. Of course, this is just a possibility. Merely identifying that there is paint suspected of being from a Tutu Dog here doesn't prove anything. And at this moment, a cry was suddenly heard, and the next moment, I saw a huge wave. No. The figure of the big bird fell from the sky. The big bird also rides a female knight wearing a high altitude flying suit. Eminem looked familiar, so he turned over and took off his helmet. Sure enough, it was Yumi, who rushed over from Yuansu Junsha's headquarters immediately. Chapter 885 Doubt. You are Jun Sha, who was present, originally wanted to stop someone from suddenly falling into the blocked scene, but soon someone recognized him. Thank you for your hard work, everyone. I'm Yumi, the police chief at Yuansu Junsha's headquarters. I will take over the case from now on. Junsha from the police department, and above at the scene, please come over. Yumi said directly. The police from the local Junsha department in Leixi town, as well as Gansu and Gaoming, as well as Afeng and Jejen from the 3rd search section, all gathered at this time. The local police department honestly reported its work to Yumi, and stated that it would fully cooperate and obey the command. Although logically speaking, the police department cannot handle criminal cases, but the police department can handle all Junsha, not to mention being so helpful and clever, is now in the police department. As for the 2 police departments of the search section 3, although they seemed a little hesitant at this time, they could only cooperate. After all, it was not the responsibility of the search section 3 for this kind of murder, even if the person who died was the section chief of the section 3. After Yumi got the news about Eminem, she immediately came alone without notifying the Minister of Criminal Justice. The purpose is to fully control the investigation power of the case with the highest rank, and avoid the loss of clues related to the smuggling case. Just like after discovering clues about Hydra in the black breeding house, Adu immediately came in person. Then Yumi gave the order to directly let Gaoming, Gansu, and Yui take over part of the local command of Junsha. Since the 3 members of Section 3 met and died after their superiors, it was not easy to distract them, but it was just help from the side. Although Due to the special identity of the victim, the head of the criminal department also learned the news immediately, but Adu immediately summoned ministers and above from all regions in due course to conduct an online meeting to provide guidance on the black breeding house case progress. Only Yumi's request for leave was approved by Adu. It was not stated clearly, but it was obviously indirectly justifying Yumi's irregular behavior. So Yuantu, the head of the criminal department, just pretended not to know about it. But just when Yumi was at the scene and felt that her arrangements were good, Feng suddenly said, "Minister Yumi, there is one thing that I think needs to be said." It's okay for police department Feng to say so. Yumi thought he had some objections, but at this time, Feng told what happened 12 years ago when the wind speed dog who dared to help was killed by Danzo Shishio. Hearing this, Yumi looked at Gansuk in surprise, not expecting that there was such a hidden secret. It was also here in Hercules Town at that time, and, although I don't remember the specific date, it was during the Hercules Cup. Feng could be said to be questioning Gansu head on. Yes, it was today 12 years ago. Gansuk admitted directly. Hearing this, Yui looked at Gansuk worriedly. She believed it was definitely not Gansuk's fault, but she was worried that the current situation would be too unfavorable for him. Amu suddenly said in surprise, "What's wrong?" Yui asked quickly, thinking he had found some clue. He graduated 12 years ago. Sister Yui, he is several years older than you, and he still picks on you for your second marriage? Eminem gang, Yui said righteously. Yui, when will I pick? Boy, what does it have to do with you? Gansuk yelled angrily. After hearing this, Eminem walked up to Yumi blatantly, whispering something and pointing at Gansuk. It can be said that apart from not hearing it, they are blatantly slandering, and when Yumi listened to Eminem's whisper and looked at Gansuk, she also became questioning and playful. To help the police department. Where were you around 6 o'clock this morning? Yumi asked directly. People from the forensics department have just determined that Danzo was killed earlier than expected, an hour before or after 6 o'clock in the morning. I was sleeping. No one can prove it. Ganshu said emotionally at this time. Can anyone prove it? Eminem added directly and looked at Yui. Of course not. Ganshu said angrily. That's such a pity. Eminem said contemptuously. The dry sun is scorching hot, and the sky is red with red flames. If the corpse is indeed burned here, there should be a lot of smoke, and it should be seen by passers-by. Gaoming said at this time. Well, then. Gaoming Police Department, you trace the witnesses at the scene. Yui follows me to look for the Pokémon of Section Chief Danzo. The three of you are more familiar with Section Chief Danzo. Investigate what Danzo usually has. What kind of enemy is in Hercules Town? As for those who dare to help the police department, go and contact the organizer of the Hercules Cup. It cannot be ruled out yet that someone wants to cause chaos during the Hercules Cup. Yumi, simply arrange the work. But the arrangement of Gansuk is worth pondering. It feels like he was deliberately diverted. At the scene, no one had any objection. Seeing that the case had entered a larger stage of evidence collection, and that Yumi had also arrived, Eminem felt that he had nothing to do, so he said goodbye. Well, I'll treat you to dinner after the case is over. Yumi slapped Eminem on the shoulder. She now feels that Eminem is really a lucky star, at least for herself, and now it seems that there are even clues to the smuggling case. Do you have any clues that you haven't told? Eminem asked Conan in a low voice. For now, no. Conan said thoughtfully. Since there is no one, then Eminem will take him away and go to the other side of the bridge. Although this small pedestrian bridge was closed and others had to take a detour for Eminem, he released the motor lizard and swam directly over. Eminem, you were too eager to inform Yumi just now. In this way, the murderer may not reveal any flaws. Conan complained to Eminem at this time. No, Yumi doesn't come over immediately. If the situation is calmed down, the clues to the smuggling case will be lost. Now it seems that the root organization should be the Black Hand of Junshili and the Yuansu smuggling case. Don't forget that bullshit smuggling case has been related to so many cases. Eminem retorted. Eminem does not think there is any logical problem in the importance of the Yuansu smuggling case before the current murder case. These are two different things. No, it's the same thing. I even suspect that Danzo should be the leader involved in the Junsha department. Amu said with confidence. The section chief's official position in Junsha is not big or small, and he is also the Search 3 courses and professional counterpart. Huh? Why? Conan asked doubtfully. In his opinion, the only clue about Gen now is what I just mentioned. Anyway, I know Eminem can't explain it either, because this is Danzo's name joke. If you are not very familiar with the unofficial history related to the root organization, you will not notice it. Chapter 886 Conditions. You lie for me. I have something else I want to investigate. Conan was still bargaining with Eminem before entering the restaurant. But Amu pulled her in directly. Be honest. I don't want to be complained by Xiaolan. Conan was reluctant at first, but as soon as they came in, Eminem and Conan saw an inferior handsome guy who was much inferior to Eminem, sitting at the table of Sonoko, Tomoyo and others, and Xiaolan was joking with him enthusiastically. Eminem was also puzzled for a moment. Shouldn't it be Sonoko who is the nymphomaniac? Conan immediately stopped struggling and walked directly to the table. Sister. Xiaolan, who is this uncle? Conan innocently squeezed in front of Xiaolan and this older brother. Little brother, just call me brother. The handsome guy said awkwardly. Well, this handsome guy looks very strong, in his late 20s, maybe less than 30. If Conan was really 7 years old, it wouldn't hurt to call him Uncle Conan. This is Akon brother. Xiaolan emphasized at this time. Kang? Conan felt that the name sounded familiar. I seem to have heard Xiaolan say it before. That was when Xiaolan was not Sister Xiaolan Satoshi Mida, the champion of the Quartz Alliance karate competition 6 years ago. Don't you know? I said, while sucking on the straw. You shouldn't know. Eminem reminded in a low voice. It's that Mida Satoshi. Conan also realized at this time. After all, Xiaolan started learning karate because she admired him. Eminem, on the other hand, has no impression at all. After all, he hadn't traveled through time 6 years ago, and it was Satoru Mida. Mida, Eminem knows, but there is actually a contestant like Mr. Akon in the Hercules Cup. Eminem said in surprise at this time. This guy also likes fried fish in fish ponds, although the Hercules Cup has some more interesting rules compared to regular karate competitions. In the final analysis, it is just a village competition. It is too. Hahaha. No, I came back as a guest. Kang said with a smile. Kang, what are you doing? Aren't you borrowing the bathroom? At this moment, a short-haired woman walked in. When she saw Kang smiling like a sunflower, she immediately rolled her eyes and walked over. Mingzi, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I just happened to meet a junior who admires me. Hahaha. Akon didn't seem to fully understand that Mingzi was unhappy because he was joking with a young girl here. Oh, do you want me to leave first and go back to the hotel to wait for you? Akiko asked expressionlessly. That's not necessary. Mingzi. Akon watched his fiancé turn around and leave in confusion, then turned to Xiaolan and others and said, I'm sorry, my fiancé seems to be uncomfortable, so I'll leave first. Eminem, Conan, both of them looked at each other with disdain. Just this kind of emotional intelligence, and a fiancé. Is the case solved? Yuanzi asked curiously. Normally, ordinary cases cannot be solved so quickly, but for Yuanzi, it is normal to quickly identify the suspect in various major cases. Not yet, but Yumi is already here, so we will come back first. Amu replied. He was originally waiting for Yumi to come. Yuanzi and the others have already ordered the dishes, and even the hot pot has been served. Although it is sumo hot pot, since it is an improved special version, the natural taste is not that simple. It is better to say that it is just chicken hot pot under the banner of sumo hot pot, but it does taste good, and it is worthy of the recommendation of the receptionist at the Pokémon Center. After eating, when Eminem and others came out of the hot pot restaurant, they found that the sumo bridge was still blocked, but Yumi and the others were no longer there. It appears that the initial search for evidence at the discovery scene has concluded. Conan was still worried about the murder case just now, and Amu was still worried about the clues about the smuggling case that were closely related to them, but the two of them returned to the Pokémon Center first. Sure enough, as soon as he arrived at the Pokémon Center, Conan shouted that he wanted to come to Eminem's room to use the toilet. Conan, you are serious? Xylan said helplessly. It doesn't matter, leave it to me to take care of you, Eminem said to reassure Xylan. Eminem had just come in, and Conan had no intention of going to the toilet. Instead, he sat on the bed and said calmly, sure enough, today's case should be related to what happened in Luxtown 12 years ago. Can you think about it? How about checking the files from 12 years ago? Conan asked expectantly. Huh? Didn't you remind me that this is illegal? Eminem rolled his eyes. This is not inflexible, Conan said with double standards. Seeing that Eminem wasn't very interested, Conan suddenly added, by the way, it should be difficult for your Porygon to evolve, right? After all, it's not easy to find such strong upgrade data. But I know a piece of news related to some legendary data. After hearing this, Eminem became really interested. In order for Polygon to evolve, it needs upgrade data. Although it is called data, it is not just a copy. It is a special kind of data that requires computing power to be converted and cannot be copied. Upgrade data does not refer to a specific type of data, but is a general term for this type of data. Generally speaking, the stronger the polygon is, the more difficult it is to evolve because the upgrade data required is too large. And generally those who train polygons are programmers, such as Dr. Leixi. They will write their own upgrade data for their own polygon. However, Eminem does not have such skills and relies entirely on Noah's self-improvement. But now Eminem has also discovered that the data from self-improvement cannot be used to evolve himself. Even if he knew it, Eminem had nothing to do. He even suspected that no one could make Noah evolve. After all, he was too special among the polygons. And Hiroki, who created it, has also died. Legendary data? What is it? Eminem was interested, but he doubted whether that thing could really make Noah evolve. Drive. Ali told me. On the 28th of this month, on a cruise ship departing from Asakura City to Zinlan City, a mysterious person held a small fan activity. As long as he can be found on the ship, he will be able to. The cost of a single cruise is waived, and you can also get a kind of legendary data. Although Dr. Agasa doesn't know what it is, I guess it is something strong enough to be used as upgrade data. I can help you find it later. Even though he still didn't know what it was, Conan was already bargaining. Chapter 887 Role-playing. Later, Eminem, who would not let go of hawks when he saw rabbits, asked Conan to explain what kind of activity he was talking about. In fact, Conan doesn't know who the organizer is. He only knows that he is a netizen of Dr. Ailey. People who can stay in that group all have certain programming abilities. Drive. Ali originally discovered this and discussed some issues with everyone in the group. Not long ago, the group leader released an event. Invite netizens to board the cruise ship that departs from the port of Asakusa City on February 28th. He will pay half of the price, and he will also pretend to be that person to interact with everyone on the way. As long as his true identity can be found out, not only you can get full reimbursement, and you can also get a special upgrade data. According to what Dr. Ali said, the group leader has outstanding programming ability, and the upgrade data that he values so much must also be extraordinary. Drive. Ali suddenly had something urgent these days, so he gave the opportunity to Conan, and had already told Kagoro that Kagoro would take Xylan and Conan with him. This matter is also suitable for Conan, because pretending to be a person, could he also be disguised? Eminem wondered. If he wasn't disguised, wouldn't everyone know who he was as soon as he appeared? No, to be precise, it's a character, and it's from my dad's book. He's a phantom thief called Night Baron. He's used to wearing a black evening gown and a mask, so he doesn't reveal himself at all. Face. Conan said with some helplessness. Why do dad's books always attract such weirdos? Phantom thief. Evening dress. Eminem said, his eyes looking a little weird. Conan immediately guessed what he was thinking, so he quickly added, Dad's book has not been finished. It has been serialized since 17 years ago. It is definitely not borrowed from the first kid. Well, he does know what Eminem is thinking. In addition, Eminem noticed that Conan was talking about the first generation of kid, which shows he probably already knew that the current kid is a young man, not the same person who was active more than 10 years ago, and Eminem thought about it and thought he could give it a try, although Eminem didn't think that the mysterious programmer could reach Hiroki's level, but since Dr. Ali said so, it didn't hurt to give it a try. As for Conan, he has already regarded the prize as his own. Then Eminem kicked Conan out. Hey, what are you doing? Conan said quickly, hacking is too violent and not suitable for children to watch. Eminem said righteously. Conan, do you want to hack into Junsha's system or go to some bad website? What's not to see? Of course, Eminem actually doesn't want Conan to know about Noah, not for anything else, but Conan has always thought that, although Noah has strong abilities, Eminem also has this ability, not complete and total dependence on Noah. But this time it was not as simple as Eminem imagined. Noah sneaked into the system and after searching, he found that the case information was no longer saved in the online database. Instead, 3 copies were saved locally in Luxtown, Junsha headquarters in Yuansu City, and Quartz Alliance Junsha headquarters. If you want to access, you can only access from these 3 places, so you can't access it directly. Conan curled his lips and said after hearing Eminem's explanation. Although Noah can teleport himself directly through the network and then sneak in secretly, considering the risk, Eminem decided to go to the data center of Luxtown Junsha Bureau in person. After all, Yumi is the largest here now. Junsha. Eminem doesn't need to be sneaky. Conan made an excuse to Zion, saying that he and his brother Eminem were going out to buy some things, and he went with Eminem. When he arrived at the entrance of Junsha Bureau in Luxtown, Eminem felt that the atmosphere here was a bit tense. After thinking about it, Eminem felt that it was not surprising. After all, the police chief of the Yuansu area is now in Luxtown, maybe even here. It is reasonable for these Junsha to be nervous, but just when Eminem applied to Yumi in the illustrated book to enter the Luxtown data center, Yumi strangely replied, "Come now, huh?" Amu frowned after seeing it. This tone. Why does it seem like Yumi is here too? So Eminem walked in, easily proved his identity with his appearance, and then came to the location of the data center. However, I saw here that Yumi, Gansu, Uie, Gaoming, and Afeng were all here, but, among them, the root has expired, and is lying on the ground. There was blood red paint on his neck and nearby areas. At first glance, Eminem thought it was blood. Looking at his dead state with his mouth slightly open, Eminem was probably strangled to death. Why don't you take the Gen Police Department? Amu said in surprise. To help. What's going on? Yumi also asked anxiously. I don't know. Someone sent me a message using the illustrated guide of taking the route. I rushed over after seeing it, and then I found that the route had been taken. Gansuk said and shook his head. Eminem also saw that everyone probably didn't come together, and Gansu was the first to discover it. Gansuk said, and showed his illustrated book to everyone. This message was sent to him by the prisoner using the root illustrated book. I am Indra, the god of thunder who destroys the root of destruction. Amu read out, then shook his head and said, what kind of devil is this? It's, haha, Eminem originally wanted to say what the other party was alluding to, but when he said it, he suddenly thought that, if he said it, he might alert the snake. After all, the murderer might be among the people at the scene. As long as Eminem doesn't speak out, the murderer will continue to play tricks thinking that he will not be exposed. By the way, what are you doing here? Yumi asked Eminem at this time. It's nothing. I remembered what happened 12 years ago, so I wanted to check the information. Eminem said honestly. It's so carefree. As an ordinary trainer, I want to come to Junsha's data center to search for case information related to Junsha. Oh, don't touch anything else. Yumi nodded matter-of-factly, speaking of which, the Root Getting Society came here to find some information, right? Afeng also looked at Ganshu questioningly at this time. Obviously, he also suspected that Gansuk took action. in order to avenge what happened back then. Hearing this, Gansuk just glanced at him and said nothing. Besides, dare to help, are you sure you are not at the sumo bridge around 6 o'clock? Yumi asked seriously at this time. Now Gansuk seemed to have guessed something, so he frowned and said, of course. What's wrong? At 6:10, a passerby saw someone who looked like you appearing at sumo bridge. Chapter 888 Discovery. At 6:10, a passerby saw someone who looked like you appearing at sumo bridge. Yumi's tone was a little heavy at this time, but after a pause, she still said, of course, wearing a coat, and even if he was wearing a hat, he wouldn't be seen clearly. Although Yumi said this, everyone understands the physical characteristics of Danzu determine it, and it is difficult to be simply recognized as wrong. Either someone is deliberately misleading and pretending, or Danzu himself is lying. However, Gansu was not prepared to explain anything, as if he just acquiesced that passers-by saw it wrong. But Gao Ming also said at this time, after discovering this entry record, I went to ask the security guard of the hotel where we were staying. He saw you leaving the house around 5 o'clock. After all, Gansu's physical characteristics are so obvious that he is easily remembered. Gansu glanced at Gao Ming, and now he had to explain, hey, I went to the Pokémon cemetery outside the town. Today is the anniversary of the death of his wind speed dog. It is indeed reasonable and reasonable. He didn't say it at first, because he didn't want to appear so pretentious, but there was no one in the cemetery at that time. It's a pity that no one could just see it, Gansuk said, already showing some emotion, as if he was dissatisfied with the suspicion of his colleagues. And after Gansuk finished speaking, he turned around and left. Wait, what are you going to do? Arfeng asked immediately. What to do? Of course, to investigate further, Gansu said matter-of-factly. Minister Yumi. Arfeng immediately looked at Yumi. Yumi looked at Gansuk, who was limping away at this time, and frowned. Gao Ming, you follow him today? Yes. Gao Ming responded. Minister Yumi, dare to help him. Why you? I still wanted to explain something but Yumi just shook her head and said, he is not suitable to act alone now. Why you? I heard that Yumi was doing this to avoid further suspicion of being able to help. Eminem didn't listen to what was going on here at all. After Yumi said yes, he inserted the USB flash drive into the data center interface. Although they are already here, Noah can lurk in by himself even without inserting the USB flash drive, but Eminem doesn't want outsiders to see such a big polygon. Afterwards, Noah immediately found the information about the incident 12 years ago and displayed it on the computer screen. When Conan saw this, he quickly jumped up and stood on the table to watch. As Arfeng said before, it was also the time of the Hercules Cup 12 years ago. Danzo, who was still in the police department at the time, brought his recently graduated Danzo to arrest someone who took advantage of the crowd during the Hercules Cup. Miscellaneous smuggling transactions. At the same time, Eminem was silently calculating in his mind. 12 years ago, that was the year when Voldemort died, and the Death Eaters lost power, and at that time, the ultimate material cases in the Yuansu area were not prominent, far from being as conspicuous as they are now. But it was true that a smuggling case occurred at that time. The two parties to the transaction chose to meet in Luxtown during the Hercules Cup. Although the transaction was stopped and the buyer's criminal was arrested, during the operation, the criminal jumped over the wall and spilled the material of the transaction, the pheromone crystals of Up-02 Beauty, causing Junsha Gansuk's wind speed. The dog was affected and began to attack passers-by. Not only did many passers-by get injured, but the suspect of the seller in the transaction also died on the spot, and a passerby's tutor dog died innocently. Dare to Help Me was also seriously injured when I tried to stop the wind speed dog. One of the scars on the eye was left from that time. At that time, my vision was already affected. Later, after falling off a cliff, I was completely blind in one eye. In the end, Danzo killed him in the street without being able to make him faint. After losing the battle, based solely on the records of this incident, there was no problem with Danzo's handling. After all, he was in a downtown area at the time. This was done to minimize the loss. It could even be said that he saved Gansuk, otherwise Gansuk himself would have almost missed it. lose your life point, but the premise of this judgment is that the smuggling case has nothing to do with Danzo, because he already had a preconceived judgment. Eminem even suspected that the wind speed dog that dared to help went out of control. It might also be Danzo who did it deliberately for the purpose of silencing him. Indeed, the seller's suspect was also killed in the incident, so that incident the smuggling case was actually not completely solved. It's just that the scale of the ultimate material smuggling case in the Yuansu area at that time was not large, and the incidence rate was similar to that of other areas. During the period when the Death Eaters dominated the Gala wizarding world, the ultimate material smuggling cases in various parts of the Xianguan continent with the number of material smuggling cases has increased. After all, those lawless guys are shipping like crazy. 12 years ago, it was the last moment of madness before destruction. Therefore, the Quartz Alliance did not pay much attention to this smuggling case at that time. When the matter was mentioned, they were more concerned about the subsequent accident, which made the Junsha department very passive at that time point. Although it was caused by being attacked by criminals, it was true that Junsha's Pokémon lost control and led to the death of passers-by Pokémon. Gansuk also rested for a long time after that. After considering his own wishes, he was transferred back to Yanmo City, his hometown, and entered the countdown to the second injury point. Just these words, although the details have been improved, are not of much help to the current case. Not only the Junsha department's own records. If there are any clues about Danzo is suspected of colluding with smugglers, write them down. It would have been remiss if no one found out about it once it was in the archives, but just then, Eminem noticed it. A really valuable clue. The trainer of the tutu dog who died that year was the 14-year-old boy Sasuke. Sasuke, reminiscent of the joking jokes sent by the prisoner to Gansu. Eminem can almost confirm that the real murderer should be this guy, and his motive is also very clear. It is indeed recorded in the file that the young man named Sasuke also developed serious psychological problems. Junsha arranged for psychological relief, and it took him a year to get out. It's just that Eminem can't provide any evidence, and due to the nature of the major alliances, they don't collect much personal data. So Eminem doesn't know what this Sasuke is doing now. What's wrong? Conan saw that Eminem was stunned for a moment. That tutu dog is called Ajing? Amu noticed at this moment that the name of the Pokémon was casually recorded in the file. Pokémon may not all have names, and only humans will give Pokémon names. In the communication between Pokémon, individuals can be distinguished without names. Then, what happened? Conan still didn't understand. After all, Conan's not knowing the name Sasuke has exposed him as the murderer, so naturally there will be no other guesses. Chapter 889 Full. Except for what happened 12 years ago, that was the time half a year ago. That time the suspect took the risk of using UP-01 parasitic cells. In order to avoid casualties, Section Chief Danzo removed the suspect and his main weapon. All the Kamoas were killed, but that time half a year ago, the relatives of the deceased are not in Luxtown now. In addition, it is inevitable that there are also people who hold grudges against Section Chief Danzo because of other things. Feng reported other results of the visit to Yumi. Yumi also looks strange at this time. Why is it easier to kill prisoners when you search Section 3 than in Section 1? And I haven't seen how good your work is. In the past 10 years, the ultimate material smuggling situation in the Yuansu area has become more complicated and complicated. At this moment, Sayo's cell phone suddenly rang. After seeing the content of the message, Sayo's expression froze, and then said, well, an informant of mine said that he saw a strange tree outside the town. That's weird. I'll go take a look. It's weird that there are wild trees in Johto. If it's not very strong, it shouldn't be the one belonging to Section Chief Danzo. Feng frowned at this time. Indeed, the informant doesn't look too sure. I'll just go and take a look, Say said, and already walked out. Eminem looked at his back at this moment, then walked to Yumi's side, as if no one else was around, and whispered to her again. As Yumi listened, her eyes lit up. Conan asked, why you are in confusion? Sister, why you I? Haven't you found Section Chief Danzo's Pokémon yet? A stone bird has been found. The result of the communication is, in order to hunt down the suspect, they left Section Chief Danzo and flew into the forest. After that, it fell into a trap and was led to a field of giant needle bees. In the nest, although it fanned away the giant needle bees all the way and finally rushed out, it was still delayed a lot of time. After returning to the original place, it never saw Section Chief Danzo again, so it kept lingering outside the town, in the forest. YUI explained at this time point. In other words, Danzo was indeed killed outside the town, and the murderer lured away Danzo's Pokémon first. Is this Danzo so brave? After hearing this, Amu said in confusion point, it sounds like he often fights with people and plays dirty tricks, but he doesn't even know how to keep Pokémon by his side for protection. Arfang said at this time, Search Danzo is usually very cautious. At least he would keep Kiruga by his side. If there really were no Pokémon around at that time, there should be someone he trusts. Shimio didn't say who was around him? Amu asked. Well, Aishitori was the first to chase the suspect. It should be. Then someone came to Section Chief Danzo and ordered him to send all the Pokémon out. The wind's momentum suddenly became weaker at this moment, as if it had thought of something point at this moment. Yumi's illustrated book suddenly rang. Hello. What? Okay, I understand. After Yumi answered, she said with a gloomy expression, someone at the first scene just saw Sayoi riding a wind speed dog towards the west of Wrestling Mountain. He looked very hurried. Look like Wrestling Mountain? That's not. Arfang's expression froze. What's wrong? Yumi asked immediately. That's the place where the criminal we wanted to arrest today agreed to meet and trade. However, when we went there before, there was no one there. We must have gotten the news. Arfang explained. It's strange that someone found a tree nearby. YUI asked doubtfully. It was Sei who said that just now. Something's wrong. Go find him now. Arfang, try to contact him. Yumi said immediately. Then Eminem took Conan and rushed towards Wrestling Mountain with Junsha and others. When passing by the first scene that was previously judged, the place where Shitori and Danzo parted ways, everyone discovered that Gao Ming was actually here. Gao Ming, why are you here? Do you dare to help? Yumi asked immediately upon seeing this. Sorry, it seems that he and I still can't get along. Gao Ming shrugged. After all, Yumi didn't ask him to monitor just now, but asked them to perform tasks together. It's understandable that Gao Ming looked like I can't control him at this time. Scold with a cry. A large black and white bird with a long beak landed. Because the eye circles were covered with some black down, it looked very sinister and cunning. It's the flying Pokémon unique to the Padia region, the stone bird. The reason why it has such a name is, firstly, because of its temperament, which makes people feel fierce and sinister, and secondly, because of its unique characteristic, moving rocks. Stonebird itself is a dual type Pokémon of flying plus evil, but when using the rock type skill, it also has a bonus to its attributes. This made people very confused about its attribute definition at first, and even doubted it. The first 3 type Pokémon was discovered. However, after learning more about it, humans determined that it did not have the original attribute of rock type, but a unique characteristic that gave it a bonus when using rock type moves. In addition, there is a huge pocket made of woven feathers on its neck and abdomen. It usually puts things in it, even rocks, to hit targets on the ground. Therefore, this characteristic is named moving rocks. This kind of the Pokémon was also named Pokémon. Is this Danzo's ace Pokémon? Amu asked curiously. The stone bird is still very rare in Chianguan continent. Yes, because Section Chief Danzo passed away, no one can tame it now, so it is in a wild state, but it has been cooperating with us in searching for other companion Pokémon nearby. Yumi replied. Minister Yumi Sei has not answered the call, and now there is no response even when using the short distance radio. Arfang said at this time, let's continue looking for Wrestling Mountain. Yumi said, continuing to lead people in the direction of Wrestling Mountain. Arriving halfway up the mountain, seeing the sky getting dark, YUI suddenly shouted, ah! Look over there. Everyone looked in the direction she pointed, and saw that in the distance, on the cliff of the mountain on the other side of the mountain stream, Zuoka retreated to the edge, and judging from the way he sat down on the ground, it was obvious that he was being forced. Sorry. What's wrong? Feng shouted quickly point. When Zeduo heard the sound, he turned around and looked towards the mountain stream and shouted in despair, "Picture book. My picture book." What? Feng couldn't hear clearly because he was too far away point, but at the next moment, a huge and strong Heluga suddenly sprang out from the cliff. Not only did it pounce on Sei and bite him, but also, he threw him off the cliff and both of them fell. The stone bird. Yumi looked at the stone bird and released her own big bird, wanting to fly over to rescue it point, but the distance between the two sides was too far and the Heluga was diving down completely out of control. Even if it flew over, the downed stone bird and Dabby Bad were still a step too late point. Everyone watched with their own eyes as both parties fell into the mountain stream. Not good, Yumi said, and immediately called the big bird back, and then jumped on its back, obviously wanting to search and rescue it as soon as possible. At this time, everyone else also showed their special abilities. Eminem, where is the lightning bird? Conan quickly looked at Eminem. Eminem just replied, at Zio AI's place. Looking at the scene in front of him, Eminem didn't think of any measures and seemed a little unhurried. Conan was very anxious at first, but after noticing Eminem's reaction, he asked in a low voice, "What exactly did you find?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 892 Messages. Not long after, Yumi discovered the body of Kiruga further downstream in the rapid mountain stream. Although there is no detailed analysis yet, but a simple judgment, it is indeed a sign of poisoning by UP02. Beautiful pheromone extract. That's why he was in a manic state and attacked Sei. After hearing the name UP02, beautiful, Feng said angrily again, it must be someone who dares to help that guy. What does this mean? You have searched section 3. You have encountered a lot of ultimate material smuggling cases in recent years, haven't you? Why you are retorted, unable to listen anymore. You at this moment, Gaoming also rushed over, holding an illustrated book in a sealed bag. I found Seo's illustrated book and buried it specially. It must have been hidden on purpose, as for why it can be discovered, even if it is buried, you can guess it, just by looking at the wind speed dog next to Gaoming. Any clues? Feng asked quickly. There is a message. It's 4:52 in the afternoon. After Gaoming performed some operations, he turned on the screen for everyone to see. That time, yes. After receiving this message, it's strange that he came out to find the tree. What? Feng was stunned after seeing the content of the message. I found clues in Danzo's belongings. The murderer may be Feng, and there is also a mastermind behind the scenes. Don't alarm everyone. Come to the wooden house on Wrestling Mountain where you wanted to arrest the person before to talk in detail. Dare to help. Damn it. It's really that bastard. Feng said angrily after seeing the content. No. This is not a message sent by Gansu's illustrated book, nor is it his mobile phone number. Why I quickly explained at this time point. Apparently, she knew Gansu's private number. Of course not. This is Section Chief Danzo's private mobile phone number. It must have been seeing this number that idiot Sei would believe that he had obtained Section Chief Danzo's relics. Feng was furious. The guy still want to frame yourself. So, this is Section Chief Danzo's personal mobile phone. Gaoming took out another evidence at this time, which was a mobile phone point. After seeing it, Feng said, that's right. That's it. Gansu must have gotten it after killing Danzo. I was about to retort, but was stopped by Yumi. Hearing this, Yumi briefly made eye contact with Eminem, then immediately looked away and said, okay, I will notify Junsha headquarters to issue a wanted order, Minister. Yumi. I wanted to say something else. Yumi interrupted. Ganshu never showed up and couldn't be contacted. It's really strange. This is also for his safety. In addition, let's leave this to the professional team. In the second half of the sentence, Yumi also behaved somewhat down point at this time. The sky was completely dark, and it was no longer efficient to continue searching for Sayoi in the mountain stream point. Therefore, Yumi announced that the rescue would be handed over to the search and rescue personnel who had just arrived. They were all professional search and rescue team members with water Pokémon. You are too uncool now. You are prohibited from participating in this case from now on. Gaoming Police Department, you continue to investigate Ganshu, and Arfeng Police Department, you send the evidence to the Forensic Department. After, Yumi arranged tasks for everyone. Everyone left one after another. Eminem also received a call from Xiaolan, complaining that he abducted Conan away, so Eminem also quickly took Conan back to the Pokémon Center originally. Conan was a little anxious, and even a little dissatisfied with Eminem's lack of urgency, but, when he came to the mountain stream on Eminem's motor lizard, searched for a while, and found the body of Hiluga. Conan was not in a hurry anymore. Not long after everyone split up, Arfeng also received a text message from Gansuk, and it was Say's number. In the text message, Gansu threatened Arfeng and asked him to pick him up and leave the Yuansu area to avoid being hunted for him. Arfeng naturally didn't want to agree, but he dared to help but use the root organization matter as a threat. Arfeng naturally knows what he and others usually do, and just when he was halfway through it and was getting anxious, a second message came. I also have evidence that the demon hunters are involved. If I can't escape, none of you can escape. Demon hunter family? So it's the demon hunter family, that guy Danzo. Arfeng was also cursing at this time. He always knew that there were others behind the scenes of the root organization. Otherwise a section chief of the 3rd investigation section would not be able to deal with such a big matter, but Danzo had never let them know about higher level matters before. Therefore, for the first time, he knew that the mastermind behind the scenes was a demon hunter. They said it was a demon hunter, but which other demon hunter could it be? After learning about the demon hunter family, Arfeng hesitated. Then after hesitating again and again, Arfeng picked up Danzo's cell phone. Through the transparent evidence bag, Arfeng unlocked it with Danzo's birthday and found a business card with the note Jade in the address book. According to Danzo's habits, Arfeng felt that this person was probably his upline. After much hesitation, Arfeng finally dialed. After answering the call, one could tell that it was a man's voice, and it was very rude. After hearing this, Arfeng couldn't help but said, you should know that Danzo is dead. Gansuk knows about the root organization and also knows about the demon hunters. He is now. After Arfeng reported his address, he stopped talking. He didn't have more time to judge whether his guess was correct or not, so he could only take a gamble. At this time, he had made his words as vague as possible and did not mention the smuggling case. If the other party was not a person in this field, there would most likely be nothing troublesome. Fortunately, he seems to have made the right bet. Got it? After the other party said that, he hung up the phone. At the same time, in the cabin on Wrestling Mountain, Eminem had just beaten Say. His 7 Pokémon had also been subdued, and they were all sealed by rock seals. At this time as for Y7, because there was a tutu dog that he didn't tame, but stayed wild and cooperated with him. Otherwise, if there was a tutu dog in his conquering record, everyone would have long suspected it. Yes, Eminem could see at a glance that the Hiluga that pounced on him before was completely fake, and was the result of his wind speed dog being disguised by tutu dog. Others may not be able to see clearly, but Eminem can see it very clearly. Under the moonlight, even if it is so far away and dim, it is clearly visible to Eminem. Not to mention, Eminem has basically locked him in before. Sai, formerly known as Sasuke, changed his name to Soi in memory of the tutu dog Aiko who died after being innocently involved in the case. Not long ago, he had just sent his first text message to Arfeng, preparing to lure him to kill him, but the lightning bird had already rushed in. After tying him up, Eminem used the mobile phone found on him to send a second message. Chapter 891 Gamble. Eminem is also not sure whether that guy Arfeng knows about the relationship between the demon hunter and his son in the smuggling case. He is also not sure whether it is possible to directly implicate the demon hunter father and son. Eminem even thinks that it may not be possible to directly implicate the demon hunter, otherwise he would not be worthy of the title of bold and cunning, but in line with the principle that it wouldn't hurt to try it out. Eminem wrote demon hunter into the message anyway. At least 2 tainted witnesses can be harvested. The others, you will make money if you test them out, and you will not lose if you test them wrongly. As a result, Arfeng and hunting demon, you are also confused now. Arfeng really didn't know what a demon hunter was, but Danzo never told him who the black hand from the top was, so he took a gamble and his move directly confused hunting demon Yu. It wasn't his call. The person who answered the phone was the housekeeper, but hearing what Arfeng said, hunting demon Yu had to believe that he had been exposed. Originally, he wanted to contact demon hunter immediately, but because of the incident at the black breeding house, demon hunter has been working crazy overtime in Quartz City recently. Even at night, demon hunter dare not call his father. And although hunting demon Yu felt that he was not directly involved in the smuggling case, he only provided some small help and always pretended to be ignorant. But hunting demon Yu is currently planning to run for the mayor of Yuansu City, and it can even be said that he was already somewhat confident, and he didn't want something unexpected to happen at this time. After thinking about it, demon hunter Yai gritted his teeth and decided to solve the matter by himself. After 10 minutes of mentally scolding the Avenger for daring to help and exposing the black breeding house, Eminem, hunting demon Yu finally calmed down a bit. Calm down. I want to calm down. Only that Gansuk knows the situation now, and he is wanted again. By the way, and that Arfeng. As long as we solve the 2 of them, well, the 2 of them now, they probably don't want others to know their location. Ao calmed herself down. Then Ao dialed a number. Just after midnight, Arfeng returned to Wrestling Mountain as promised and came outside the cabin where the smugglers traded. He also didn't know whether those people marked as Jade by Danzo would take action. But in order not to get involved himself, he didn't dare to put all his hopes on others. Dare to help. You bastard, come out here. Arfeng shouted angrily outside the wooden house. Until now, he still firmly believed that those 2 text messages were sent to him by Gansuk, but in fact, they were neither. At this moment, the door of the wooden house opened, and Arfeng had been holding the elf bull in his hand. At this time, he was holding it slightly nervously, but next, Arfeng couldn't help but be startled when he saw the person coming out. You, Eminem, why are you here? Arfeng exclaimed. Should I ask this question? I have no mission to send the evidence back, and this is not a protected area. It is my freedom as a traveling trainer to go wherever I want, right? Eminem said with a smile. However, when the evidence was mentioned, Arfeng's expression was obviously stagnant. At this time, he also highly suspected that Amu had solved Gansu and knew why he was here. Of course I have a reason. I'm here to catch that bastard who dares to help, Arfeng said immediately and righteously. Oh, then why didn't you call anyone else? And how did you know Gansu was here? Amu asked matter-of-factly. That's because Upon hearing this, Arfeng also understood that Amu obviously knew something and would not listen to his own excuses, so he gritted his teeth and opened all 5 elf balls in his hand. But at this moment, Amu raised his hand, and in Arfeng's view, a huge thunder pillar with a diameter of more than 2 meters was blasted directly towards him. His lightning bird was not placed with anyone else at all. Arfeng reacted in his heart, but his body was already shocked beyond reaction. At this time, he even suspected that Eminem was also interested and wanted to kill him directly to silence him. But at the next moment, when Arfeng had closed his eyes, he suddenly realized that he only heard the sound of lightning flashing. With his eyes closed tightly, he also felt that the lightning seemed to pass. After Arfeng opened his eyes tremblingly, he heard the sound of his wind speed dog whining in pain behind him. He quickly turned his head and saw a lightning bird raised its claws at this time, blocking the sword of a commander cleaver on its head, and his wind speed dog was already injured and fell to the ground at this time. A real injury, the kind of bleeding, a trauma that would never occur in a normal arena duel. Looking at the direction of the slash, Ah Feng suspected it. Seems that your request for help was successful, but it was not completely successful. Amu said at this time. Ah Feng also realized at this time that someone wanted to silence him too. At this moment, I heard the sound of fleeing from the trees nearby. At this moment, Xiao Shan's whole body was filled with electric light, and then General Servant Sword directly electrified him until it smoked and flew away. Then Xiao Shan chased in the direction of the sound. Ah Feng was panting violently at this time, obviously realizing that he had just wandered around the gate of hell. Then Ah Feng looked at Eminem, feeling confused, but still forced himself to analyze the current situation. Ah, my lightning bird is chasing someone. How about it? Do you want to try it? Can you deal with me one-on-one? Ah, Mr. Amu is joking. Have you caught Gansu? Ah Feng hesitated for a moment, then squeezed out a smile, then squatted down and took the 5 elf balls in his hand. Put it on the ground. At the same time, Yumi, Yui and Gaoming also came out. Ah Feng secretly said, sure enough, but what he didn't expect was that what Gaoming dragged out at this time was soy. Ah Feng asked in shock. In his eyes, the only thing left from confirming Sao's death was finding her body. Scold. At this time, the lower stone bird fell down. Just when Ah Feng was wondering, he saw a squirming movement in its bag, and it suddenly dared to climb out. Ah, you. Ah Feng looked at Gansu in surprise. Gansu has been hiding there since he separated from Gaoming. Yumi reminded at this time. That's right, Gansu's alibi is actually very sufficient, and Gaoming was just pretending to have a quarrel with Danzo's Shishio here. Those who know the truth will not doubt Danzu from the beginning. Damn it. I really let you hide away. Zeduo Jing stared at Ah Feng with hatred. Ah Feng, who then understood who the murderer was frightened by his eyes and took 2 steps back. Chapter 892 Arrest. You. Are you? Why are you? Looking at Zeduo Jing's reaction, Ah Feng already understood who the murderer was, but he still didn't understand why he did this. You bastards, you all colluded with the people in Gala to smuggle ultimate materials to Xianguan continent, and then used your position to kill people and silence them, and you didn't hesitate to implicate innocent people. You all deserve to die, said scolded. You. Ah Feng was not surprised that he knew this, but rather wondered why he went crazy because of it. After all, Ah Feng also knew that Danzo and himself had been recruiting him into the group before. Although he hadn't known anything too important yet, he should be able to guess some of it himself. Okay, let's take them both back separately. Yumi interrupted at this time. Yumi mainly didn't want to see Sa's reaction. As a member of the real Junsa clan, she was of course very sympathetic to Sai. Of course, she couldn't agree with Sao's way of revenge, and she would not violate the principle of favoritism. At most, she would just beautify Sai in the report to the prosecutor on the basis of not violating the principle. Although he killed someone, it still involved destroying the cancerous organization in Junsha. In this case, it is impossible to be exempted from guilt, and the sentence will be very long. However, there is a high probability that he will be sent to a key location outside the alliance as a garrison. The premise is that he can pass the review and his Pokémon is willing to go with him. Saoi, who used the name Sasuke 12 years ago, was implicated in the conflict of a smuggling case when he and his partner, a tutu dog named Aoi, went to watch the Hercules Cup, dying to protect him. After that, Sasuke was autistic for a long time, but finally came out with the guidance of a psychiatrist. He changed his name to Sei, and out of hatred for smugglers and admiration for Junsha, Zeduo returned to school with the goal of Junsha School, and successfully admitted to Junsha School a few years later. At first, what made him very happy was that he was actually assigned to the 3rd search section. and Sayoi also knew the section chief, the Junsha whom he admired. However, Say did not reveal his identity to Danzo, but hoped to make some achievements before speaking out. And Danzo would not even know that the young man named Say in front of him was the young man named Sasuke back then. Instead, because of the name Say, I was tempted to make fun of him and decided to introduce him to the root organization. After Zeduojin gradually learned the truth, the hatred that had been suppressed for 10 years surged uncontrollably. If that was just an accident caused by the smuggling crime, Say could certainly not hate Junsha, but turn his hatred into the motivation to catch the smugglers. But when he knew that what happened back then was actually due to the collusion between these Junsha and the smuggling group, and that the accident happened because Danzo wanted to kill people and silence them, and it was deliberately done, Sayoi could no longer restrain his murderous intention. At the same time, Danzo also vaguely revealed to Say that there is someone above me and so on. Say also weighed himself. Danzo's crime might not be worthy of the death penalty, let alone other accomplices, so Say decided to do it himself. Everyone in root organization must die. As for daring to help, Sayoi had indeed forgiven him back then. After all, he was also a victim, but now that he thought that guy was also Junsha, Sayoi felt that he was not innocent, so he planned to kill other people and frame the crime on Gansuke. Then he first contacted privately the smugglers he wanted to arrest this time. In fact, they were not planning to catch those people at all, they were just putting on a show. According to the script, they would catch a few people who had nothing to do with him. You know, the little guy who takes the blame. However, under Say's instigation, the smugglers believed that Danzo wanted to kill people and silence them. After all, this was nothing new. So in the forest, Danzo was attacked by the smugglers' Pokémon, but Danzo was not someone to be trifled with, and because of Say's hint, Danzo was already on guard and repelled the opponent with fewer enemies and more enemies. Because Say also rushed over at this time, Danzo sent all the Pokémon, except Hiroga, out to chase. Among Danzo's main Pokémon, only Black knows about smuggling. That's why Danzo often asks other Pokémon to chase, while only Black defends himself. Often in this situation, when the time comes, Danzo will come into contact with people from the smuggling side. As for the other 5 Pokémon, they were also unaware. Even if one day Danzo was suspected, the Junsha clan would not be able to ask anything from his Pokémon. And Danzo, who only had one Kyuruga by his side and was unprepared for Say, was naturally in trouble. Especially Say has a secret weapon, the 7th Pokémon. That is AI's brother, a tutu dog named Axin by Say. There is no submissive relationship between them. They are completely working together to avenge AI. Later, after taking the route and discovering that the clues pointed to Say, in order not to expose the root organization, he wanted to negotiate with Say. Say also pretended to accept the negotiation, and both of them put down the 6 Pokeballs at that time. But at the next moment, Ashin launched a sneak attack, strangled and hung up Tojin, while Say took advantage of Tojin's breath and immediately took away his elf ball and threw it away. The treasure that popped out afterwards, Camus, although they were discovered quickly, they didn't know what happened. But Say's revenge only ends here, because Eminem saw that they were playing tricks. He directly understood Say's identity and understood the truth. Even Gansu and Gaoming had guessed before that the murderer should be the partner trainer of the tutu dog back then, but they were not sure of his identity. Regardless of whether Daosuke himself or Gaoming, there is no doubt that he believed that Daosuke was not lying. He just went to the Pokémon cemetery. This proves that someone is pretending to be Gansuke and acting on Sumo Bridge. And the other party dared to pretend to be Gansuke at that time. Not far from the hotel, either he was brave or foolhardy, or he was very confident, knowing that Gansuke would not approach the Sumo Bridge at that time, or even guess Dansu will not have an alibi. The only one who remembers this day so clearly is the boy who lost his companion Pokémon on the same day. Even without Eminem, Say's plan would not succeed. At this moment, along with the cry from Xiaofeng, the flash of thunder in the distance gradually faded from strong to dim, and Amu and others also rushed over. Only one trainer and a few Pokémon was seen, and they were all electrocuted and fell to the ground. Gaoming also stepped forward to identify the trainer who was electrocuted and fainted, and then said, "He is a wanted Pokémon hunter. It seems that someone is in a hurry." Chapter 893 Revenge. Although Twinkle is just a single-handed bird and does not have the help of Thunder Feather, but to compete with a bottom-level beast like Twinkle, at least 2 or 3 king-level Pokémon are needed, or perhaps a champion level 1. Only Pokémon can do it. This is not something that ordinary criminals can do. At this time, Gaoming relied on his memory to recognize that this person was a wanted Pokémon hunter. He usually lived in the north of the Johto area and spent most of his time outside the Alliance. It should be that someone hired him when he happened to be in Yuanzhou. Gansuk said at this time he will appear in Yuanzhou. It is a coincidence. It is unlikely that he was specially hired to come to Yuanzhou. However, his current actions are obviously under the instigation of someone, and Arfeng does not seem to know about it. Is this sent by the Demon Hunter family? Amu directly coaxed Arfeng to confess. How do I know? Arfeng was almost killed just now, and his face looked very ugly at this time. Seeing Eminem staring, he remembered his identity and said weakly, "I don't know. I just called the Jade number on Danzo's mobile phone and then mentioned the exposure of the Demon Hunter family." Feng looked strange at this moment. He has obviously seen it. Although the demon hunters were mentioned in the message, it seems that they are not sure about it. There is a recording on the phone. Gansu reminded Eminem calmly, "You don't need to induce a confession. The recording is clear." As for why the recording was not discovered, because there is no wireless transmission. It is set in the mobile phone at this time. Now after recovering the evidence, you can naturally hear it. Gaoming had already taken it out to answer the call, and after hearing the voice from the other side, Amu quickly looked at them. Yumi shook her head at this time and said, "It's not the demon hunter." Hearing this, Gansu rolled his eyes at the side. "Forget about this guy, Eminem. Minister Yumi, you are still on official duties, so it's a little bit unkind to just openly say that you want to blame karma. Why you like this, isn't it? Fortunately, there are no outsiders nearby. It seems that whether we can bring Demon Hunter you to justice depends on the results of your torture," Eminem said with emotion. "It seems to have been confirmed." Gansuk said speechlessly. Now there are 2 tainted witnesses, Sei and Arfeng, and the most important thing is the Pokémon hunter who works part-time as a killer. The latter should definitely know about the hunter you. It just depends on whether he is willing to tell, and whether he has any evidence. If Counselor Yu had successfully contacted his father before, Aheo would definitely not let his idiot son act rashly. There was a high probability that nothing would happen, but in the end, he rushed to give him a newbie certificate. Of course, Senator Yu would definitely not be able to contact his father because Demon Hunter had blocked him for a long time, and he thought he was working overtime. When Eminem took Conan back to the Pokémon Center, it was already late at night. Only then did Conan realize that he was afraid. Sensing his restlessness, Eminem comforted him. "It's okay. I just came back late. What's the point? Is it a woman's turn to make irresponsible remarks?" No. This is obviously not the same thing." Conan rolled his eyes at him. Can this be the same? Xiaolan is now his guardian, so complaining that he came back late is not. "Don't worry, I sent a message to Xiaolan and told her you will sleep in my room tonight," Eminem said thoughtfully. Conan breathed a sigh of relief at first, and then looked at Eminem in surprise. "Have you ever done such a good thing?" Immediately, Conan guessed something and asked anxiously, "The reason why we came back so late today, how do you explain it?" "Of course it's because you insist on making trouble to investigate the case," Eminem said matter-of-factly. I can guess this without mentioning Xiaolan. Otherwise what? Could it be because of me? I forgot that when the murder happened before, when you and Hepping went to investigate the case, I accompanied Xiaolan and Hei to continue shopping." "Really? It shows that I don't like investigating cases at all." Eminem said confidently. Conan felt that today or tomorrow's disaster was inevitable, so he had to think of how to drag Eminem into the water. What Conan and Eminem didn't expect was that when they returned to Eminem's room, as soon as they opened the door, the light was still on point except for Sakura. Everyone else was seen in Eminem's room, obviously waiting for them to come back. As for Sakura, it was probably because she couldn't stay up late. Conan immediately smiled and ran in, hugged Xiaolan, and said half cryingly, "Sister Xiaolan, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come back so late." It's as if he didn't want to come back before. Slim Shady, you want to act, right? Xiaolan, look, you scared Conan so much. Don't talk too much about him. I have already criticized him. Eminem persuaded him decisively. Well, as soon as I heard this, I knew that Conan was so obedient now, because Eminem had already criticized her, and Conan also seemed to have said bad things about Xiaolan to Eminem. Hey, brother Eminem, didn't you say that it's okay for boys to come home late, but girls shouldn't talk too much? Conan said ignorantly. Did you remember it wrong? Isn't that what Shinichi said? Just last time, when we were in Golden City. Amu was surprised, but at the same time his tone was very natural. Conan, as long as it's okay, then I'll take Conan back, Xiaolan said with a smile. At the same time, Conan felt that Xiaolan's strength seemed to be stronger this time. Eminem, you should go to bed early. There is a game tomorrow, Tomoyo said with a smile at this time. Ah, what kind of game? Eminem was confused after hearing this. Hercules Cup. When we go down today to sign up for Xiaolan, we will also sign up for you, Tomoyo said matter of factly. Slim Shady, this is pure revenge. And what kind of village competition is this? Can I still sign up for someone else? After seeing Eminem's expression, Sonoko said, originally it was not possible, but later I found out that Suzuki Group was actually one of the sponsors, so I used an internal referral quota. This way I can directly participate tomorrow. It's the official competition. Slim Shady, thank you so much. Eminem also realized that it seemed that his actions of taking Conan missing for most of the day and half of the night today had aroused public outrage. It's already so late anyway, and Eminem isn't planning to leave tomorrow, so it doesn't matter if he's delayed for a day. Fortunately, the official competition of the Hercules Cup can be over in just one day. If we set off the day after tomorrow, we can still catch the cruise ship in time. As for the Hercules Cup competition itself, Eminem didn't take it too seriously. After all, it wasn't a formal competition, and the rules were probably what Eminem had seen before when he was idle. Chapter 894 Hercules Cup. On February 25th, the official stage of the Hercules Cup in Luxtown begins. Originally, Eminem was planning to watch the excitement before setting off, but now, Eminem is also going to compete. In fact, yesterday they mainly signed up Xiaolan. After all, Xiaolan is a real karate trainer. If they encounter a similar competition like this, they will definitely want to participate. Then I suddenly remembered Eminem, who had disappeared with Conan. So I reported it to Eminem in a mischievous manner. It is said to be a formal match, but the previous few days were not preliminaries, but similar to a celebration, from the tug of war and weightlifting that are directly related to strength, to the confrontational head and square inch push, to the big stomach king, roaring and other events that have little to do with it. At the celebration, these events are used to obtain tickets for the official competition. Therefore, the Suzuki Group, as a sponsor, can easily find quotas for internal referrals in the official competition stage. It is very different from the normal Pokémon duel. The registered Hercules has to team up with 2 of his own Pokémon. There are also requirements for the types of Pokémon. There are dozens of types of Pokémon to choose from. They are all power type Pokémon. They are similar to the restrictions in karate competitions, but different. Some karate competitions can be played. Agility type fighting Pokémon are excluded here, but some Pokémon that are banned in karate competitions are allowed to play at this time. In general, if the admission criteria for karate competitions are human form plus fighting, then the judging criteria for strongman competitions are human form or fighting plus strength type. The competition method is also completely different from karate competition, the contestant himself and 2 Pokémon have to participate in 3 sets of competitions. One group is Big Eater, another group is Heavy Object Carrying, and the last group is Head-on Showdown Point, and there are not separate competitions. Only the head-to-head group is drawn 1 vs 1. Regardless of the victory or defeat, the next game will be matched. As soon as the players are ready, the winning party can obtain the right to move, based on the matching points. Then the Pokémon responsible for heavy object transportation must move the corresponding heavy objects to the corresponding place and exchange them for food. The final score is the food eaten by the Big Eater. Different foods have different scores, which are not purely based on weight. For example, if you choose vegetarian food, you will definitely get fewer points than if you choose meat. If you use tree fruits to aid digestion, points will be deducted. Early in the morning, on the way to the competition site, Eminem also read the rules carefully in the illustrated book. When it comes to choosing Pokémon, all Eminem can do is choose 2 out of 3 between Little Bad Bear, Leoben and Ali. Among Eminem's Pokémon, there are only Moon Bear, Bankulus and Heracross are on the playable list. Needless to say, Heracross is a typical Hercules with all 3 skills including fighting, human form, and strength. Bankulus is banned in karate competitions. Although it also stands on 2 feet, it is more similar to a monster's posture, and even if it can be used, few people will want to use it. After all, Bankulus's fighting department, great restraint. However, Bangerus is the signature quasi-divine beast of the Johto area, and is a typical power type, so Luxtown naturally includes it. The Uiu Bear is a list specially requested by the Suzuki Group, and updated this year, but it does not count as a backdoor. After all, the Loop Bear has been on the list before. In fact, Super Armor Crazy Rhinoceros is also on the list, but Eminem didn't want to send Arduin from the Armored Rhino Ranch just because of a village competition. In addition, Amu feels that if the paradoxical Pokémon from Paydeer Island is updated, Majestic Fang should also be available. After all, it is a fighting type and a strength type, so it doesn't matter if it is not humanoid. However, the Paradox Pokémon is not specially marked, and Dungeon and Elephant are not on the list, so it is difficult for the Suzuki Group to mention this matter. At this time, Eminem read the rules carefully. Before, he only knew the general process, but he still didn't know how to calculate matching points in head-to-head duels, how to calculate heavy objects, how to add points for various foods. Eminem didn't know yet. At this time, Eminem was sitting in the passenger seat with Xiaolan, Yuanzi, Conan, and Xiaoi in the back seat. Conan and Yuanzi are still giving advice to Xiaolan, and it seems that she has not yet completely decided how to arrange her tactics. Xiaolan's Charizard and Jackrabbit cannot play at all. The former has little to do with fighting and can fly, so it will not be allowed to play anyway. The latter can play in karate competitions, but it is typical agility type, banned in strongman competitions. Therefore, Xiaolan's choice space is smaller than Eminem's, and the Pokémon can be decided directly. Iron Palm, Big Mouth, and there are no other choices. What Xiaolan hesitated about was how to allocate projects. Now, Sister Xiaolan will definitely have to fight head-on. If she goes to the Big Eater, she will definitely not get all the points. Carrying heavy objects is not her strong point. Conan analyzed at this time. Well, in the 3 events, there can be weak ones, but there must not be any very lagging ones. For example, if Xiaolan goes to the Big Eater stage, it will be useless for her Iron Palm Warrior and Big Mouth Boy to win. Although the food provided is all human beings can eat, but the appetite, it was decided that Xiaolan would not be able to get high scores, and no matter how many redemption coupons she got, she would not be able to redeem her scores. Isn't it better for a big-mouthed kid to go to Big Eater? After all, he just conquered it not long ago. Yuanzi suggested at this time. Big Mouth Baby was conquered by Xiaolan in the Chengdu area. It is not so much suitable for Big Stomach King, but rather, the level is not high enough, so it is not suitable for face-to-face combat. But, although Big Mouth Baby has a big mouth, he only eats faster, so I'm afraid Xiaolan was still a little worried. After all, Big Mouth Baby is very petite, and a big mouth does not mean a big stomach. It doesn't matter. We can choose foods with high scores. The advantage of big-mouthed babies is that the big mouth on the back of the head has no sense of taste. Those foods that are rich in nutritional value but no one chooses just because of their taste are our scores. Opportunity. Conan said at this time. Eminem also said in the co-pilot. Yes, that's right. And Mr. Akang is also a guest. If Xiaolan goes to confront him head on, we can have a good discussion afterwards and see what actions can be improved. Xiaolan's eyes lit up when she heard this, and Conan's face darkened after hearing this. He was suspicious. No, he was sure that Eminem was deliberately taking revenge. Actually, I think it would be good for Sister Xiaolan to run with a heavy load. After all, in a duel, the Iron Palm Warrior is more powerful. Ha ha ha. Chapter 895 Arrangement. On the way from the Pokémon Center to the venue, Amu and Xiaolan had already made up their minds. Eminem and Xiaolan both decided to have a head-to-head confrontation by themselves. Hey, you want to do it yourself too? Yuanzi couldn't help being shocked when she saw Amu filling out the confirmation form like this. Is it weird? I don't look like I have a big belly, right? And judging from the rules, the requirements for weight-bearing hands are actually very high. Eminem replied matter-of-factly. By the way, Eminem, you don't have a martial arts uniform, right? Xiaolan suddenly remembered. It doesn't matter, I'll just buy a set when the time comes. Eminem didn't take this seriously. Then, you have to decide in advance what kind of clothes you want to buy. Not only is it a matter of appearance, but martial arts uniforms from different schools also have different effects on physical activity. Xiaolan reminded Point in her opinion, Eminem doesn't understand fighting or karate at all. This judgment is indeed very accurate. Eminem's reason for this choice is similar to Xiaolan's. He doesn't have such a large appetite, and he's not good at carrying weights. Needless to say about food intake, when Eminem discovered that he couldn't take the stomach strengthening and digestion tablets he made during the competition, he basically gave up. Eminem's current food intake is not fundamentally different from that of normal people of the same weight, and is even worse than that of children or kid. From this point of view, Eminem's power is actually unscientific. Eminem's hesitation has always been head-on confrontation and heavy lifting. Simply speaking, from a balance between strength and skill, Eminem is more suitable for carrying heavy objects. Or in other words, for selling silly strength. This is the difference between Eminem and Xiaolan. Xiaolan is confident in her ability to fight head-on, but Eminem may not be able to beat Xiaolan. Although Eminem's strength and physical fitness are world-class, they are not to the world-class level of Mida Satoshi, let alone to the superhuman level of Kyogoku Makoto. In terms of pure strength, Eminem thinks to himself, and Shuchi it's almost the same. But when it comes to fighting skills, it's far from that. It shouldn't be a big problem for Shuchi to beat both of them. From this aspect, it is more suitable for Eminem to do heavy lifting. But now Eminem writes Heracross on heavy moving. You sure it's not the other way around? Aren't you just stronger? Yuanzi asked worriedly. I thought so at first, but then I discovered that according to the rules, the process of head-to-head duel is a matching system. Everyone is in the venue. As soon as the matching starts, opponents and venues with similar scores will be assigned. And different from the general matching system, the matching here only adds points and does not deduct points. If you win, you will get more points. If you lose, you will get less points. So, what? Yuanzi was a little curious. What loophole did Eminem find? So, if my matching score is lower, I can still get points, Eminem said, gesturing with his thumb. Sinoko, but the higher the score in the battle between players, the more points will be added in the end. If your score is very low, and you want to increase your score by relying on quick battles, you will not be higher than those players with real high scores. The faster the score. Yuanzi looked at Eminem helplessly, suspecting that he didn't understand this rule point. Although the Hercules Cup is not a formal competition, it has been held for a long time, and is somewhat famous without any major loopholes. For example, do you admit defeat continuously, or lose quickly to gain points in each game? Totally impossible. According to the calculation of points, if you lose too much, the extra points in a game can drop to a few tenths. If you win a normal game, it will be more than 10 points, and if you win a high level game, it will be hundreds of points. You can't get it back at all. Participants in the heavy objects carrying session will use this score to exchange for the heavy objects to be moved, and then use the heavy objects at the end point to exchange for exchange coupons, and this exchange coupon will be used to redeem food. As long as the participants in the Big Eater session eat these foods, they will get corresponding points, whether it's Eminem's own analysis from the rules or some experiences on local forums. Everyone's identification of the first two links is consistent. The player responsible for heavy object transportation is better than the player responsible for head-to-head duel. The players are stronger. After all, in head-to-head showdown, as long as you fight more, you will always get points. Generally speaking, the person responsible for the heavy object handling link must at least be able to avoid wasting points, and for the heavy object transportation link, there is actually room for improvement. After all, with the same points, you can choose something heavier and less easy to load to increase the number of exchange coupons you get point. If one is strong and the other is weak, and the stronger one is placed on heavy object moving, the score will often be higher. Of course, if you are weak, don't stretch your hips too much. Of course, Eminem is much weaker than Dali. Even in terms of absolute strength, he is inferior. And Heracross is also good at carrying heavy weights. However, I looked at the statistics from previous competitions and found that more than 60% of the players were trained by their own trainers to do the head-to-head duel. Eminem said, "Talk from experience, as for the other 35%, it's basically half between Big Eater and Heavy Transporter. There are always some special abilities, like a sumo wrestling trainer, who also has a huge appetite, and Eminem wrote you bear on Big Stomach King. Although the weight difference is not big, when it comes to appetite, the little bad bear crushes Leoben Point, until Eminem released Moon Bear and Heracross and were about to enter the three groups of venues respectively. Yuanzi still said uneasily, don't be too pushy. Although most of them are human beings, you won't suffer too much, but your fighting skills, of course. Although I don't know how to fight, but I have superpowers," Eminem said, gesturing with his thumb. Hey. Tomoyo wanted to stop him, but he didn't have time. After Eminem said this, the surroundings became quiet. The players who were originally marveling at Moon Bear and then Eminem all looked over at this time, their eyes a little unkind. I don't think it's forbidden to use superpowers. Eminem looked at everyone and said in a low voice. A big man like a mountain of flesh stood next to him. At this moment, Wang Sheng said, yes, there was a guy in the last session who won the championship in that way. Haha, guy, that way. Obviously, although the rules allow it, everyone still hates that guy. This is reasonable. Just like using superpowers in a karate competition will be frowned upon. And it is true that the last champion also suddenly used superpowers during the head-to-head duel. But this also made other players in the Hercules Cup even more disgusted and wary of superpowers. Chapter 896 Admission. Have you heard that Eminem is also coming to compete? I heard. I wonder if Moon Bear will be used. I saw that the Pokémon registration list has been updated. Your information is out of date. Zion does exist, but he said when he entered the venue that he can use superpowers. No, that's not what you said. I heard it was, watch me kill you all with just one telekinesis. I was at the scene, and he was saying, everyone here is rubbish. He also has superpowers. I guess so. Otherwise, why would you say that? Humph, don't you know? My second uncle's cousin's niece is in the Kanto Golden Gym. I heard about this Eminem, and that super powerful devil. TSK. The game has not officially started yet, and the audience is already talking about it. Sonoko and Tomoyo were also embarrassed by this, but Sakura wanted to turn around and argue with them. Eminem didn't say that, but Tomoyo turned her back. In fighting competitions, everyone generally doesn't like users of superpowers, and some of the comments are normal. Tomoyo said to Sakura, then, why not just ban them from participating? Sakura curled her lips, not wanting others to speak ill of her friends. Of course there is a reason for this. Tomoyo actually didn't understand much. After all, He was not usually interested in this kind of competition. Tomoyo won't say I don't know directly, but will cross over. But this time, I only heard Sonoko interrupting from the side. I know this. Firstly, it's because mental power is also the trainer's own ability. If it is prohibited, it will go against the competitive spirit of karate. Secondly, it's also because, normally speaking, the direct combat effectiveness of super type trainers is far weaker than that of fighting type trainers of the same level. Even if they participate, there is usually no benefit. I see. Sakura suddenly realized after hearing this Sonoko was also very relieved at this time. Finally, she could also act as a student master in front of Tomoyo, of course. In fact, this has nothing to do with being a student master. It's just because once before, during a competition, Xiaolin was tricked by an old yin with superpowers, and as a result, she lost an important match point. Later, after Yuanzi cried for Xiaolin, she complained to Xiaolin why people with superpowers could compete. Xiaolin also answered her formally at that time, so she still remembered it. Karate, the core competitive spirit is to show the power of human beings, mental power and telekinesis, which are also power. Just because there are many people using physical power, we cannot stop people from using mental power. But, are superpowers weak? Sakura had heard people say this before, but as a magical girl who could beat up Jin, she had no idea about this. Sakura, you and a person with superpowers are two different things. In fact, most people with superpowers can only bend a spoon after working hard for a long time. If you have this time, the fighting trainer will rush over and give you a meal. Punch and kick. Yuanzi said at this time point Sonoko still has an idea of how strong Sakura is. Tomoyo also nodded at this time and said, and in this type of competition, although trainers are not prohibited from using superpowers, there are restrictions on Pokémon. Pokémon are basically prohibited from using skills, and most people with superpowers are also super trainer weak. Super type Pokémon such as QD can usually use telekinesis, but if they can't use skills, they won't be able to show much of their strength. I don't think superpower trainers will easily participate in such competitions. To bring humiliation, Tomoyo just doesn't know the spirit of karate. As for people with superpowers, they can't take advantage in front of combat masters. Of course she knows this. Wait a minute. Then why did the champion of the last Hercules Cup? Sakura said, looking around quickly, and then lowered her voice. I haven't looked at the specifics, but I guess it is that the contestants themselves are also masters of fighting and possess a certain level of superpowers. Later, at a critical moment, they use their superpowers to make a sneak attack. Tomoyo guessed at this time. Indeed, when Xiaolin competes, even if she meets someone with superpowers, they are usually both fighting and superpower trainers. Yuanzi said confidently at this time point. Although Yuanzi doesn't like fighting skills that much, she likes Xiaolin, so she doesn't miss the competition point. Usually he focuses on fighting skills, but occasionally uses some superpowers to trick people. This was the case for the champion of the last Hercules Cup, who got the key matching points. In addition, a person with superhuman powers like Nazi, who is completely superhuman, should also be able to do it. But Nazi has never been so boring, and has never participated in a fighting competition point. And now, without exposing magic, Eminem's superpower is actually not very strong. At least in terms of damage, it is not as good as brute force. Provided that no magic is used. If eternal flame is used, the situation will be completely different. It's entered. It's centered. Sakura looked for it at this time, then pointed to the field and said, look. It's Xiaolin. Eminem is there. Huh. Why is he still wearing sunglasses and a hat? Yuanzi wondered. You afraid of the boost? But you still have to take it off during the game, right? Sakura was also confused point, and Shai seems to have guessed something, and his smile is a little frozen. The venue of the Hercules Cup is a standard venue for track and field in the outer circle and a large battlefield in the inner circle point. If the outer track and field track were propped up, it would be a standard basketball court. The huge internal battlefield has now been divided into 24 small fields, arranged around the outer circle. A karate-style duel does not require such a large battlefield. Only a small ring size is enough point after all. Pokémon cannot use skills, and they are not encouraged to run around and dodge. All they need is melee combat point. The reason why it is 24 unis, because there are only more than 40 players entering the official competition, and in this circle of the battlefield, there is an entire field that is no smaller than the normal battlefield, with various foods placed in the middle. At this time, there were also Pokémon and human players entering the arena point. The Pokémon are all very edible, such as Kirby and King of Leaf, and the human players are all fat and strong, with most of them having a sumo body shape. Obviously the entire interior is the venue for Big Eater point at the track and field in the outer circle. Athletes and Pokémon began to prepare. They were all Pokémon with weird strength and expert builders. The human athletes were all big and round, and Eminem's Hercules Lacrosse and Zion and Zion Palm Ricochet are also among them. Apparently the heavy moving sight is outside. Just when the audience who were unfamiliar with Eminem were still looking for him, Eminem took off his sunglasses and hat. Tomoyo and others, who were still worried about Eminem's away game, heard the buzz around them start to change. And they all became quiet at this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897, Hand-to-Hand Combat. Is that you, Zion? It's so big. The monster next to it is so small. Hey, why is it the Big Eaters group? What's there to see? Yuanzi and others also heard that Yu Bear appeared in the Big Stomach King venue, which disappointed many people. They originally thought they would see Yu Bear take action. It's okay to bear wait. Where is Eminem? Which one is Eminem? Let's see. Eminem's opponent is Brother Bayo, over there. Brother Bayo is a regular at the Hercules Cup. That Eminem is going to be in trouble. Look, that man is so handsome. Can you see it from this far away? Look, there's a close-up on the broadcast screen. What? That's Eminem. Then everyone looked for Eminem, and it was at this moment that Eminem took off his sunglasses and hat. Suddenly, the public opinion about Eminem in the audience outside the stadium changed completely. Come on, Eminem. Who is his opponent? He looks like a gorilla. Eminem. I saw that Eminem had already arrived on the field. It was also the first time that he stood in the duel field in person, brushed his bangs, and made 1/3 of the audience change sides. As for Eminem's opponent, he looks tall, thick, and hairy. At first glance, Eminem reminds him of Takanori Akagi, the captain of the basketball team. It seems to be called Bayo. Originally, Bayo didn't have any objections to Eminem, but when he saw him come on stage, he took off his sunglasses and hat in a show-off manner and started posing without looking at himself. He just waved to the audience and said to the direction where the screams were coming from was making a blowing kiss gesture. Bayo couldn't help but said in a low voice, "Are you here to compete?" "Sorry, I can start at any time," Eminem said, stroking his hair on both sides, and then said to the referee in the small venue beside him, "My cheers may make you a little uncomfortable," Eminem said, and frivolously pointed his pistol at Bayo. Bayo. Okay, standard karate rules. Eminem vs. Bayo. The match begins. The referee was also stunned, and then announced, Dang. I saw Bayo exhale loudly, then hit his chest, and then Eminem could feel that his momentum had also increased. Although this was the first time he saw it with his own eyes, Eminem had also heard that karate trainers would also imitate Pokémon moves when fighting in person, mainly fighting type and general type, of course, because humans do not have the corresponding gene segment. They can only imitate superficially. For example, this is the beggar's version of abdominal drum. By hammering the chest, it intensifies its own blood circulation, thus increasing its strength. In fact, if a Pokémon that knows abdominal drum does not activate the abdominal drum gene segment and forces itself to imitate and use abdominal drum, it can achieve similar effects, in theory. If a Pokémon fully masters a skill, it cannot occupy it gene position, because it does not require the blessing of gene segment, but that is at least after the awakening of level 2. The next moment, Arbeo rushed directly towards Amu. However, Eminem could feel that this guy who looked like a gorilla was not really foolhardy. He was wary in his eyes. Obviously he also knew about Eminem's previous superpower declaration, but seeing that his opponent is pure strength, Eminem actually does not use his superpower accurately, but waits for the opponent to hug him. Bayo is going to lock him up. Haha, there is absolutely no way to escape if you are locked by a Bayo. Wait. To eat the earth and throw it. No, come on Eminem. Yeah, people don't dare to look at it. Of course, human beings throwing on the earth is just to hug the opponent, jump back, and then smash the opponent down. For the skinned human beings in this world, it is just being done by humans, which is generally not the case. As for serious injuries, especially to someone who is also a karate trainer. But next moment, the audience noticed that Arbeo seemed to be hugging him, but his arms were not completely closed. Immediately, you can see from the close-up of the screen or the telescope that Eminem also raised his hands and grabbed Arbeo's elbow. Although the physical difference between the two sides is huge, Arbeo is nearly 2 meters tall. About the same as Gang Zion, and even much stronger than Gang Zion. However, at this time, Amu, who looked weak and pitiful in front of him, grabbed both elbows. After that, my arms couldn't be closed at all. Immediately afterwards, Eminem took a step aside and not only hit the opponent's chest with his shoulder, but also raised his leg and kneed him in the abdomen. In comparison, Eminem has no fighting skills. He just fights with his body. If he meets a skill-based opponent, Eminem will have a harder time, but against a similarly brute force opponent, Eminem is not afraid. Vomit. Bayo was knocked up and retched for a while, but it was just retching. Firstly, because people in this world are so skinny, and secondly, Amu was indeed too unskilled, otherwise it would have been Zyuchi. If the attack is in place, the enemy can be defeated with one move point. When Eminem tried to hit him with his knees again, Arbeo also raised his leg to hit him. Bang, bang, continuous muffled sounds came. After Eminem judged that the opponent's physical fitness was not as good as his own, he did not give the opponent a chance to adjust his posture. He just grabbed the opponent's arms with both hands and continuously collided with his left knee. After 3 strikes, Arbeo's expression became visibly distorted. The 4th time, he no longer dared to lift his legs. He was completely knocked back by Eminem, and he struggled to get rid of Eminem's hands. This powerful player, who usually started with a bear hug and then used wrestling and ground skills as his main fighting style, actually gave up. Although Arbeo was able to break free, he was obviously injured in his left knee. At this time, his steps were a bit staggering, and he was forced out of the field by Arbeo in 3 strokes. 8, 9, 10. Arbeo's player has been out of bounds for a total of 10 seconds, and Eminem's player wins. The referee announced at this time point, according to the rules of karate, victory does not mean beating a person or Pokémon until they lose the fight and faint. It only requires forcing the opponent out of bounds for 5 seconds, or accumulating out of bounds for 10 seconds, or continuously suppressing the opponent and falling to the ground for 10 seconds. Even if it's a victory. At this time, Arbeo felt a little relieved and sat back, rubbing his knees. It felt like Amu's physical strength was more exaggerated than his strength. At this time, Eminem brushed off his bangs, then took out a bottle of medicine from his backpack and handed it over. How about trying my injury medicine? I saw Eminem smile at this moment, as if it was about to shine, and suddenly there were cheers praising Eminem for being a beautiful person with a kind heart. Chapter 898, bearing a heavy load. Look, Eminem is giving wound medicine to his opponent. Oh my god, how could there be such a good person? It's completely different from other contestants. I love it. No, wait a minute. Aren't there many people who give each other medicine for wounds? Eminem, 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 ordinary. White martial arts uniforms can't hide Eminem's amazing charm. At this time, Eminem also had a new understanding of the overall performance of Moonpath. Becoming handsome is not only a matter of appearance, but also makes all the other advantages more obvious, while your shortcomings become less obvious. Why is Eminem a beautiful person with a kind heart? Because no one cares. Ugly people are kind or not. At the same time, Eminem, who had started winning, also scored 25 points, and he is the third contestant to win. The first two have just won 2. I saw Heracles with the same number as Eminem written on the outer track and field, and he had already arrived at the exchange office. The 3 major events will be carried out at the same time. After scoring points in the head-to-head showdown, the contestants in the heavy object carrying must immediately run for redemption coupons. After getting the redemption coupons, the big eaters in the middle can start eating point at this time. No Pokémon has started to act in the big eater field in the middle point. Many people were disappointed with Eminem's arrangements before. You can just use your superpowers. After all, most of the audience is just watching the fun. But why did Moon Bear come to Big Stomach King? What can this tell? Although it is not possible to attack directly during carrying heavy objects, let alone snatch it, collision is possible. The speed of scoring in the matching battle will also affect the choice of heavy objects. If it is too late, all suitable heavy objects will be the opponent has chosen. At this time, Dally moved the third one, which was still very advantageous, and he saw that it came to an unpopular exchange point. The third person to win was actually Eminem. I didn't expect Eminem to be so superior in strength and physical fitness. Eminem's Heracles made a choice at this time. Here comes Eminem. Heracles chose Exaloy. The commentator now focused on Eminem's side and explained Dallas' choice. As expected of Heracles, he is very confident in his pure power. The commentator commented on the choice of Exaloy. This is indeed the case. Exaloy was originally a material produced by Metrograss. After combining with other element, it forms a super heavy alloy with a density 32 times that of water. Nowadays, with the deepening of mankind's understanding of Pokémon and the advancement of science and technology, the materials produced by Bronze Bell can also be used to make Exaloy, which can reach more than 90% of the real Exaloy in all aspects, and the cost is also lower. Greatly reduced point. Although it is still very expensive, it can be used in industry on a large scale, and can also be used as a counterweight as it is now. Exaloy is typically dense and hard. Now at exchange points, they are all cast into Exaloy that looks like weight plates with holes in the middle point at the same weight. It is easier to take. Choosing Exaloy means you are confident in your absolute strength. I saw Eminem at this moment, while signaling to the referee that he was ready to start the next round of matching. He raised his wrist. The live broadcast immediately went over to show it to the camera, and it was shocking to see that Eminem was wearing it. Mega bracelet. Huh. Is there a small keystone underneath? Sakura's eyes were sharp. She had never observed Eminem's bracelet so carefully. Conan on the side shivered and glared at Zio AI, but Zio AI turned his head to the side. That's right, that's Conan's special keystone for his Mega Evolution. Then I saw Dalla's whole body flashing with the light of evolution. At this distance, Mega Evolution is possible. Then I saw Mega Heracles, who was somewhat short and fat, lifting a half-meter diameter weight plate without using a bar and directly put it on the long horn above his head point. Because Mega's evolved short arms could not touch the top of the horn that accounts for half of its height, so it even threw it slightly and caught it with the big horn on its head. Obviously, this was not the limit of strength. The first film is indeed Heracles, and it seems to be well educated. The commentator said in coordination at this time point the world record for the pure strength of Heracles is more than 30 tons. The limit of Mega Heracles is unknown, which is similar to what is described in the game. The load can be up to 500 times body weight, but in fact, for the average Heracles, it is far from this level. The explanation then explained in detail. One of the Exaloy counterweights used to carry heavy objects has a standard weight of 1 ton. You can choose it once with a minimum of 20 points. If you carry at least one piece, you can get 10 food coupons. Carry 2 at a time. You can get 20 exchange coupons for each piece. You can get 30 exchange coupons for carrying 4 pieces. You can get 35 exchange coupons for carrying 6 pieces. And for each additional piece after that, you can get 1 exchange coupon. It can be seen that in terms of cost performance alone, the 2-ton price is the highest. Move 2 pieces and exchange for 20 coupons. Generally speaking, this is also the characteristic of all options. The most standard ratio is the 1:1 redemption of redemption coupons and points. If we can achieve 1:1 quote, at least we won't be lagging behind. If you take more later, the increase in redemption coupons will slow down, rather than increase proportionally point. But at this moment, Eminem's Mega Heracross didn't hesitate to pick up the second piece, put it on his head, and then kept adding the third piece. In the blink of an eye, 5 pieces were put on my head, which is a weight of 5 tons. After Dally's Mega Evolution, the Longhorn has almost reached the top, with only a quarter of it still exposed. It can be seen that it is already difficult for Dally to lower his head at this time, and due to his body shape, it is almost impossible to bend down. However, he still squatted down, used his hands to scoop it up, and lifted another piece. This time he did not throw it up again, but he lifted it forward and hung it on the corner of his nose with the same length. Then with all his strength, he hung 3 more pieces on the upturned nose, almost full. 8 tons. Is it the limit? Okay, 8 tons. Eminem's Heracross is off. $8. If successful, it will be 37 points, although most players should adhere to the principle of bearing more weight than fighting. Usually half of the players can only convert 1:1 quote, and Dally will almost double the increase. If successful, hopefully temporarily ranking first and gaining a big advantage. It can be seen that there are still some limits, and in this hanging position, if Heracross raises his head, he will fall backwards due to the weight on his head. If he lowers his head, the weight hanging in front will fall down again. According to the rules, you must complete a complete circle to be considered a success in the challenge, and if the counterweight lands midway, you must start again from the starting point. The competitive hairy crab of the Little Dare player who won the 4th group set off. It has very little weight, and it seems to be mainly going to collide with other players. That's right, his target is Heracross. When the commentator said this, Sakura stood up dissatisfied and stepped on the baffle in front of the first row of spectators. Tomoyo quickly reminded her to pay attention to Lady. Chapter 899 Interference Tactics. What does that smelly crab want to do? Is it causing trouble? Sakura stepped on the billboard in front of her and said with claws and teeth, like a competitive hairy crab. Tomoyo quickly reminded her, Lady, Sakura-chan, lady, but Sakura still defended her friend. You see, Sonoko is not in a hurry this time, Tomoyo said, looking at Sonoko in surprise. Unexpectedly, she has also grown. Come on. Yeah. Ha 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 ha. What's going on with Heracross? What's that stinky crab doing? Yuanzi had just turned around from Xiaolan at this time. Seeing that Xiaolan had defeated her opponent, Yuanzi also discovered that Eminem's Heracross was facing a challenge at this time. Immediately step on the brand in the same posture as Sakura just now. Tomoyo, on the track and field, successful hairy crab caught up with Dally in less than a quarter of a lap. The former chose only a heavy object with 10 exchange coupons, so it was not that strenuous. In fact, generally speaking, in the Hercules Cup, the players who are responsible for lifting heavy objects rarely have the opportunity to exceed the score later. The reason is this: they cannot be too arduous, otherwise they will easily be beaten by other players' interference. Although direct attacks on each other, let alone the use of skills, are not allowed, a certain degree of body collision is allowed when overtaking and staggering. There won't be much damage, but if something important falls to the ground, you have to start all over again. However, it is not allowed to continue to block the road, nor is it allowed to turn around and chase. Eminem allowed him to challenge such a high score just now because he had the first mover advantage. At this time, most of the players had no matching points and had not started running. Although there are matching points, even if you lose in head-to-head, heavy carry can only be chosen to start once when the former wins once. If you lose, the points you get can only be used together. If you win next time. Eminem thinks. At this time, players who can fight quickly should be willing to score points for themselves regardless of victory or defeat, rather than causing trouble for others unexpectedly. I met Leixi. This is your first time running, and you are committed to causing trouble. At this moment, the result of Eminem's match came out. Eminem vs. Zyogan. It's not that enemies don't get together. Eminem just happened to be matched with Zyogan, who was blocking him. Is this also part of Zyogan's calculations? The commentator saw this result and said something else. In fact, it's not that coincident. After all, Eminem is the third to win, and Zyogan is the fourth to win. This is only the first round, and the winners have almost the same matching points. It's only natural for them to be matched together. But if Zyogan hadn't matched immediately, Eminem might have been matched with Zyolan, the fifth winner. When Eminem came on the field, he had just run a fifth of Dali and returned to the starting point. Just now, the hairy crab bumped into him unexpectedly, causing Dali to stagger a little. Although he did not fall, one of the weight plates fell off. According to the rules, I have to go back to the starting point and start again. At the same time, Eminem could also see that at this time, the competitive hairy crab deliberately chose to bear the weight more easily, just to hit people. It wasn't aimed at Eminem. I saw it also rushing towards the too heavy carrying Pokémon in front. At this time, everyone was less than a third of the circle. After all, the other two were not much faster than Eminem. One of them still runs very slowly, because the Pokémon is responsible for the battle and the trainer is responsible for carrying the weight. As for another athlete, he doesn't have the same empathy as Eminem and Ali. When choosing heavy objects, he has to go to the inner ring of the track and field area to give instructions. I saw that Eminem's opponent was a dwarf with a yellow hedgehog head pointing upward. At this time, he also came to the ring and said with a proud face, "It's such a pity that I have to run again." If you always have to run it again, it will delay the efficiency of converting points into vouchers. Once you choose a heavy object, you can't change it. If you still can't finish it, you have to give up and start the next round of points redemption. The more points you save, the harder it is to redeem them all at once. Like Xaloy, if to exchange for 100 points, you have to carry 4 tons at a time to get 100 redemption coupons, which means you need 4 pieces to redeem it. 1:1 quote point not. Only Eminem at this time. Another player whose trainer was carrying a heavy load was now disturbed by the hungry hairy crab and fell back to the starting point. Eminem stretched out his index finger, shook his head and said, "Why don't you trust your Pokémon more? This is not beautiful at all." Gan, who was still a little complacent at first, looked at Eminem like this, and for some reason, felt a little stuck. Immediately, the audience in the stadium also started to boo. Gan immediately blushed and said, "What's so beautiful? This tactic has always been used in competitions. What the hell are you calling?" He then yelled at the surrounding audience, "Grace, Grace, contestant Agan." Eminem said at this time, and brushed his bangs. Agan. Originally, he wanted to see the depression of some of the leading guys. He has a relatively bad character, not bad, but he is willing to use this method to attract attention. When he was in school, he felt like the guy who broke the rules is so cool. In essence, they use this vulgar way to attract attention, and they cannot distinguish the difference between monkey watching and worship. But when he saw Eminem's reaction, and the audience's reaction, he felt uncomfortable. At the same time, the referee has also announced the start of the battle. I saw Agan making a weird gesture with his fingers together. Let you know how powerful my crab punch is. Agan, a shrimp and crab trainer, is proficient in the cultivation of various crab and shrimp Pokémon, as well as the training of claw skills. What? It's so ugly, Lord. Amu. Blast him. Ugly. Guy, stay away from the handsome guy, brother. Eminem, come on, just. When Agan was feeling a little depressed, Eminem turned around, put his index finger on his mouth, and made a quiet gesture towards the audience. Others didn't know why, but Eminem was not only handsome, but also, every move he made was very contagious and convincing. Some of the originally crazy audiences also calmed down upon seeing this. Eminem made a wink to the female audience, which had the greatest contrast between before and after, and quickly fell silent seeing the female audience members falling in love with each other. Agon's mentality exploded, and he rushed directly towards Eminem. He did have some skills on his hands, and his fingers made a snapping sound. When he was running, he kept staring at Eminem's bangs fiercely. His thoughts were very easy to guess, and he seemed to want to cut them off, but to be so foolhardy, pudgy just when he was about to rush over, Eminem used his psychic power to trip him up, causing him to fall like a vicious dog, and pounce on him. Chapter 900 Beauty Pressure. He is anxious. He is anxious. Player Agon is obviously anxious, because of his explosive mentality. He even forgot that Eminem had superpowers with the strength of Eminem's mind power. It is actually very difficult for the power to cause effective harm to anyone, and it is also impossible to do anything clever with too much accuracy. The same is true for most people with superpowers. But it's okay to twist into a rope and stumbling usually. If you know that your opponent has superpowers, you will be extra careful not to destroy your body's balance with a small force. Just like the RBO I met before, he was very careful when running but now Agon was hit directly, tripped and fell in the middle of running, and the arena was so big, it could be said that he fell directly in front of Eminem. Crab Punch, as you can tell from the name, it's fast to attack, but not so flexible when turning over and getting up. The next moment, Eminem was sitting directly on his waist, and at the same time he lifted his legs. Ah. It hurts. It hurts. Agon screamed immediately, gesturing with pliers with both hands, but he couldn't touch Armu at all. The results for Eminem's side are about to come out so soon. Mr. Agon, what do you think? The commentator suddenly realized that Eminem's side was about to win or lose again, and he returned it to the guests on the side. Deliver the message. It should be over. Although contestant Agon's crab fist is very skilled, he is now fixed in the giant claw crab pose, and there is no way to get rid of it. Akang said, after looking at Eminem's posture. Note 1. What exactly happened? Let's replay it. Oh, did Agon player fall down by himself? This should be a superpower, right? Agon player was too careless. The commentator analyzed at this time just now. He didn't look towards Eminem immediately, originally thinking that it would take a while for the outcome to be determined. The fighting skills are like this. Once you are locked in a fixed position, unless you crush the opponent with strength or use some strange moves, there is no way to fight back. Eminem ignored it and continued to lean back until admit defeat. I admit defeat. Agon shouted in advance when the referee counted 5. After hearing this, Eminem stopped. At this time, Eminem also became the first player to achieve his second victory, and just when the commentator and Agon were about to say something else, Kagoro interrupted. Ah. Look at my daughter. Ahem. Look at players Ialan. Kagoro didn't pay any attention to Amu, but kept paying attention to his daughter. As for Eminem using his superpowers to win quickly, what? It's just cheating with superpowers. Haha. Even if you can't call it cheating, you are still being clever. His fighting skills are so raw that it's like he has never practiced at all. Why didn't you go to the competition after practicing so much? It's hard to find such a handsome fighter. Don't be jealous. He is also a fighter. You are right. But giant crab fixation is a difficult to achieve blocking technique. It was originally used by the giant crab fighter King Crab, although the use of superpowers is somewhat controversial. But the cheers from the audience were even louder. Eminem's giant claw crab pose was also so exciting. After all, he is so handsome. At the same time, on the track and field in the outer circle, no person had reached the finish line at this time. The two people who started earlier than Eminem's Heracross also returned to the starting point. After successful hairy crab successfully interfered with all the players in the front, he was already in the first place, and then his speed suddenly slowed down. Especially Agon, who was holding his waist at this time, and made an X sign to it. After the gesture, the winning hairy crab became even less anxious. Anyway, Agon did not win. In this case, the winning hairy crab could not start a new round of redemption. so he was not in a hurry to complete the first lap, but continued to block slowly. Obviously he still wanted to continue to block Eminem and other players. Xiaolan's Iron Palm Warrior was also targeted at this time, but the Iron Palm Warrior was not running fast in the first place, so he had not yet caught up with slow and Yoyohang. It's as good as a hairy crab, but it's the closest. Heracross, let's cooperate. At this moment, the trainer's weight-bearing player, who had been knocked back to the starting point after Dali, also caught up with Dali and took the initiative to speak. When he was side by side, as a typical fighting trainer, he had to carefully Heracross communication. Hey. Heracross nodded friendly. First, call the Iron Palm Warrior in front, and then wait for the strange force behind. The other party saw that Eminem's Heracross was easy to communicate with, and he was relieved at this time. Hey. Dali responded and directly called Xiaolan's Iron Palm Warrior naturally. Amu, Xiaolan, and Yuanzi's Pokémon all know each other. You guys know each other? Great. The weight-bearing trainer breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Then the four players gradually evened out their speed point. Originally, Eminem thought that he might have to match the opponent who had just won the first game, but he did not expect that at this moment. Xiaolan also quickly defeated the second opponent. The third round of the first matching match is about to begin. It's Eminem's player versus Xiaolan's player. It seems that both parties know each other. Judging from the situation of the Pokémon, they should be familiar with each other. I don't know if they are companions in the same trip, the commentator said, and looked at Kagoro. Although he tried to be objective in his words, everyone also knew that Xiaolan was Kagoro's daughter. Of course not. My daughter usually focuses on training and travels as a supplement. This young man, usually travels in the wild. Kagoro naturally understood the situation. Oops, Xiaolan and Eminem are matched. Yuanzi saw this and said worriedly, point after all, between these two people, she would be unhappy whoever loses. It's not too surprising. After all, there are only 48 players. They all had good luck at the beginning and didn't encounter two strong opponents. Tomoyo said at this time point in the first few games of the matching system, it still depends on luck. I saw Eminem and Xiaolan quickly arriving at the matching arena, which happened to be very close to Sonoko and Tomoyo. Xiaolan, Eminem, come on. Sakura has no burden, just come on, sister. Xiaolan, come on. Conan completely leaned towards Xiaolan. Everyone, come on. Eminem, you can't bully Xiaolan. Yuanzi was also a bit biased point at this time. Eminem's match was particularly eye-catching, and one of the broadcast screens had been broadcasting it here. After all, it was not only the only third round winners match, but also, both sides were extremely good looking, especially Eminem, suppressing Xiaolan's beauty by 3 points. Note 1. In reality, this move should be called Boston Crab Fix. I don't know why it is called that, so I changed it to Giant Crab Fix. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.